Report on the 302B sub-allocations. We are pleased this morning especially to have with us the most recently married member of this committee, David Jolly, married over the weekend. Any remarks? We're in the home stretch. This will be the 11th of the bills. I want to take a moment to thank all of you for your hard work on your subcommittee and, of course, on the committee for sticking with us. And also on the floor, these bills are, as you know, attracting large numbers of amendments, and you've stayed true to the cause by staying and participating and voting on the floor. So thank you for the hard work that has gone into this process so far. A reminder, we will be on the floor today again with the Interior Bill. So I hope we can keep our comments in here as brief as you can. We want to finish the bill before we have to go back on the floor for the Interior continuation. And Ken has done a great job leading us on the floor. Thank you for the great work. With that, let me turn, and a reminder too, we'll be doing the financial services on the floor next week. We'll be hopefully marking up Homeland and Subcommittee tomorrow. Thursday. Yes, sir. So if we continue at this pace, if we continue at the current rate, we will have marked up all of the 12 bills for the first time in many years. No one seems to know what year that last happened. So you're making history as we go along. With that, let me turn the floor over to the chairman of the Ag Subcommittee, Mr. Adderholt, to present his bill.
Good morning. Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have before you, committee members, the FY16 appropriation bill and report for Ag, Rural Development, Food, Drug Administration related agencies as reported by the subcommittee back on June the 18th. When the subcommittee met, the bill was passed by voice vote, and it received much praise for its bipartisan nature. And so I want to thank Ranking Member Farr for his cooperative spirit and all his work. Also all of his staff to bring the committee bill to the full committee today. Also want to express my appreciation for all the subcommittee members for participating in the hearings as they shared their ideas, their concerns, and as we developed the bill. Of course, none of this would be possible unless we had the help of and the guidance from Chairman Rogers and Ranking Member Louie for their commitment to regular annual appropriations process. The overall total for both discretionary and mandatory programs in this bill equals $143.9 billion. That is $3.2 billion below the President's request. The bill includes $20.65 billion in discretionary budget authority, which is $1.1 billion below the President's budget request. The mandatory funds support USDA's farm, conservation, crop insurance, and nutrition programs. When we met as a subcommittee to start the FY16 appropriation process, we talked about three guiding principles that our subcommittee would go by. Number one, improving the management and agencies and programs within our purview. Number two, we'd target funds to the most important programs and functions. And number three, we would promote U.S. agricultural free and fair markets, safe food and medicines. This basic framework helped us set the priorities during the 11 budget and oversight hearings that took place. which covered all of USDA's mission areas as well as the FDA and the Commodities Future Trading Commission. The bill focuses investments in programs that bolster U.S. agriculture, support rural communities, maintain food and drug safety, ensure sound markets, and provide nutrition for children, families, and seniors at home and abroad. The bill also targets funding to national programs that have the most benefit to the American people and the U.S. economy. And I'd like to briefly highlight and to mention a few that's in the bill. The bill provides $2.69 billion for agricultural research. We received a wide backing from members and public requesting support for the land-grant colleges and universities. We were able to provide targeted increases for a selected number of research programs. In particular, we provided a total of $335 million, a $10 million increase over the FY15 enacted level for the Agricultural and Food Research Initiative, USDA's premier competitive research grant program. The bill provides $871 million for the Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service. This is an agency that is on the front lines working to eradicate plant and animal diseases alike. Because of the work of several of our members, in particular Congressman Young, and members from the district like I represent, where there's a lot of poultry growers and processors, I'm pleased to say that we were able to increase funding for the avian health in a couple of different areas. This bill also includes language which grants flexibility to USDA to use all resources to control and eradicate the devastating effects of the highly pathogenic avian influenza. One group that represents 95% of the eggs produced in this country, and is industry which is suffering from crisis, sent a letter thanking the subcommittee for its bill. And this, and I'll quote, "for our Herculean efforts to fund, facilitate, and the programs critical to the future of egg products, poultry industry, and the current outbreak of high-path avian influenza in the United States." Also, because of the efforts of Ranking Member Farr and Representatives Rooney and Valadao, pleased that we were able to increase funding to combat citrus greening disease. Thanks to these colleagues and others who showed interest in the bill, we were able to place special emphasis on a few other national priorities facing agriculture today. The bill includes more than $1 billion for the Food Safety and Inspection Program. It will maintain more than 8,000 inspectors at more than 6,400 meat, poultry, and egg product facilities across the nation. The bill provides an estimated $1.5 billion for the Farm Service Agency and does not allow the closure of county offices. We also fully fund the various farm loan programs that will reach approximately 40,000 farmers and ranchers, including those just starting out for the first time. The bill also places controls on reining in the out-of-control information technology investments. For the Natural Resources Conservation Service, we provided $840 million to help farmers, ranchers, and private forest landowners to conserve and protect their land, including $6 million above the request for the Watershed Rehabilitation Program. As I noted in the subcommittee markup, many of us come from rural districts. I know firsthand that rural parts of the country face its own unique challenges. As such, we provide a total of $2.5 billion for rural development programs across the nation. This represents an increase of $86 million above the FY15 enacted level. We also include funding to support $920 million in business and industry loans, $1.3 billion in loans for rural water and waste programs, and $6.2 billion for rural electric and telephone infrastructure. Also providing $1 billion for single-family direct loan program, $1.2 billion for rental assistance, and approximately $30 million for the mutual and self-help program. At times, we have requested and we have also questioned USDA's commitment to rural development programs when we see that such cuts as those proposed for rural housing. However, there's a strong support for them in the House of Representatives, and so thank you for all of you who have shown support for that program. Excuse me. As you know, this bill includes both discretionary and mandatory funding for USDA's food and nutrition programs. In particular, it provides $6.5 billion for Women, Infants, and Children program, However, the committee has not decreased funding in this area to just simply save money. This number is reflective of decreased program participation. USDA's Economic Research Service just issued a report that WIC participation fell for the fourth consecutive year in 2014, with an average of 8.3 million participants per month. The report further states that since peaking in FY 2010, the number of participants has decreased by almost 10%. USDA's data continues to show that declining participation rates since the average of 8.1 million for FY 2015. Every person who is eligible for the program will receive the benefits at its funding level. The bill includes $21.5 billion in required mandatory funding for child nutrition programs and $81.7 billion for supplemental nutrition assistance program that we commonly know as SNAP. This funding helps almost 46 million Americans each and every month. Also want to clarify that the bill provides full funding as requested for the summer food service program at $536 million. The bill provides an additional $12 million to continue the summer EBT pilot program. And I would emphasize here that the summer EBT is a pilot program. There is no cuts to the traditional summer food program. If the summer EBT pilots have been successful, then I hope USDA will work with the authorizing committees to establish a program rather than just continue with pilot projects. To support those in need, like places like South Sudan, the Horn of Africa, and the Central African Republic, the bill provides $1.6 billion for overseas food aid. As our ranking members noted at the subcommittee markup, I'm pleased to report that we were able to provide $17 million increase above the budget request for Food for Peace grants and maintain the level for the McGovern-Dole Education and Child Nutrition Program. The Food and Drug Administration receives almost $2.6 billion in discretionary funding in this bill. When the user fees are included, FDA will receive $4.6 billion in FY16. Within the total, the committee provides increase of $41.5 million for food safety activities and $4.2 million for medical product safety activities. The bill provides $250 million for the Commodity Futures Trading Commission and provides savings for the out-of-control leasing costs that they're dealing with there. This level maintains the $35 million increase the agency received last year, and it represents an increase of 123% since the collapse of the nation's financial markets back in 2008. Finally, the bill zeroes out 8 outdated programs. The subcommittee members worked hard to incorporate the funding priorities on both sides of the aisle as we went forward with this process over the last several months. I thank you for your attention, and I would ask for your full support for this bipartisan legislation, and I look forward as we report the bill to the House floor today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ranking Member, Mr. Farr.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank Chairman Adderholt for the effort he made in the allocation with the allocation he was given. And thank you for that outline. It's probably as good a bill as one could write, considering the woefully low allocation. What the committee did well was to meet the requests of our subcommittee and our colleagues. All hearings were open and accessible throughout the process. Both the chairman and his staff, both the committee staff and his personal staff, have been receptive to the concerns that subcommittees raised, and it has been a pleasure working with Mr. Adderholt and all the other committee members. I just thought that I might just for a second tell you how important this subcommittee is, how the USDA, it seems like it's just sort of filled with agricultural facts and economics. But the USDA was created by Abraham Lincoln at a time when America was experiencing the westward expansion. And it was the intent to create sort of a home ec center for the United States so that people going out and doing the westward expansion could learn how to live in the rural areas and live in the woods. And to this day, that responsibility is still with the Department of Agriculture, particularly in their rural development section, where most of the poverty in America exists. So it's not only a sort of the economics of agriculture and the trading and all over the world, and the food safety issues that the department has, but it's also very keen to the poverty programs in America, and that's why we have the WIC program and food stamps and other type programs in there. What the chairman didn't tell you is it does whack the spending. It provides $20.65 billion in discretionary spending, which is $175 million less than this committee enacted 2015, and it whacks $1.1 billion from the president's budget request, which is 11.4% below what it was enacted in 2010. In perspective, that was the last time that this level of funding came in 2009. In 2016, you will not be able to buy anything at the price it was in 2009. Nothing else in 2016 will cost what it did in 2009, so why should we ask the Department of Agriculture and other agencies to live on such a whacked budget? The reductions in this bill might seem relatively small compared to previous year's allocations, but is typical of a majority's trend to cut, squeeze, and trim in order to meet arbitrary numbers in the Budget Control Act. At a time in history when we ought to be investing, we are subtracting. The Food for Peace program takes $49 million cut from last year. The CFTC, the Commodities Future Trading Commission, which is where the problem started with our big collapse, it's the agency responsible for overseeing the market, worth multi-trillions of dollars. And it gets a paltry $245 million, which is $5 million less than we gave it last year. You're not going to be able to cut, squeeze, and trim the CFTC into being a better fiscal agency for the American public. The summer EBT program, it's a tiny but successful program with a great impact, got a $4 million cut from last year, almost a quarter of its funding. And the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for WIC takes a hit of $139 million. But there are a few bright spots in the bill. For example, Chairman Adderholt pointed out, and I worked with him in order to get the Agriculture Research Service's Meat and Animal Research Center in Nebraska, after the news stories broke earlier this year about the animal misuse and abuse. The chairman and I devoted valuable hearing time and several meetings and correspondence with the USDA on this matter. Given the gravity of the situation, the bill withholds 5% of the $56 million in funding for the ARS salaries and expenses until the Secretary certifies that ARS has updated its animal care policies and has improved procedures in its facilities is a step in the right direction. In my opinion, this is the right thing to do, and I commend the chairman for his strong leadership on this matter. Another bright spot in the bill, this bill provides $7.2 billion for agriculture research programs, including the Agricultural Research Service and the National Institute of Food and Agriculture. This funding will support research to help mitigate and stop devastating crop diseases, improve food safety and water quality, and combat antimicrobial resistance. This bill includes important research investments in the U.S. land-grant colleges and universities. The committee has also jurisdiction over FDA, Food and Drug Administration. The FDA receives a total of almost $2.6 billion in discretionary funding in the bill, an increase of $30 million over fiscal year 2015 enacted. Within this total, food safety activities have increased $41.5 million, and medical product safety activities are increased by $4.2 million. The FDA also receives revenue from user fees, like prescription drug processing fees, the tobacco and medical device fees, for a total in the FDA budget of $4.6 billion, $106 million above last year. This all sounds like a lot of money, and it is. But I would note that the agency is funded $116 million below what the President requested. Though I mentioned it is $30 million more than it was in 2015, in the last year's mark. Despite the modest increase, I believe the FDA is still being shortchanged. We are fooling ourselves if we think the FDA will continue to be able to keep us safe and healthy in food consumption when we are consistently fail to resource it fully. I also want to point out that the bill basically rewrites the portion of the Tobacco Control Act, and that's just wrong. Let me wrap up with one more thought. Feeding the hungry. Whether it is taking care of our own or someone around the world as a superpower as we are, we have a responsibility and a moral obligation to help those in need. This bill is so vital on fundamental level. That's why it is so disappointing to see the effect of the allocation on important programs like international food aid. The need for American food aid is obvious. Around the world, there are 795 million hungry people. That's over twice the size of the U.S. population. And we've seen a series of crises in recent years, like the war in Syria, the conflicts in Africa, and the earthquake in Nepal. The need for food aid has grown, not shrunk. As I've already said, the Food for Peace program, our flagship food assistance program, is $49 million less than it was last year. That means that 1.3 million people will go hungry instead of getting food that is desperately needed. There's no good reason for this cut. It's just a result of arbitrary budget caps that are forced on us by sequestration. The bill before us is a result of good effort, but is short on funding and has unnecessary riders. I look forward to working with Chairman Aderholt as we move forward through the process to change this dynamic and get this bill passed. Hard times don't mitigate the need to think about investing in our future. This bill is an investment in our future. We need to get it right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank the gentleman. This bill is first and foremost a bill to support the economy, one that targets funding toward important American ag industries and the development of rural communities, and away from unnecessary red tape that hinders economic growth and harms the livelihoods of America's farmers and ranchers. Importantly, the bill supports rural communities like those in my own district by funding basic rural infrastructure, providing vital loans to rural businesses, and helping those most in need with food and housing assistance. The $20.65 billion in discretionary funding is also focused on safety programs, those that ensure that healthy food is in our markets and on our tables, and that drugs and medical devices that save lives are safe, available, and reliable. For instance, funding in this bill will help control plant and animal pests and diseases, improve food safety and water quality, and fight antibiotic resistance. And funding for food inspections will maintain more than 8,000 frontline inspection personnel nationwide to help make sure our $186 billion meat and poultry industry remains world class. The bill also makes certain that our nation's hungry are cared for. It provides funding for each and every eligible person on food assistance, ensuring that no one loses these critical benefits. Overall, I think this is a strong appropriations bill that accomplishes what it seeks to do. It helps improve the way our government works, prioritizes funding to the most important agricultural, rural development, nutrition, and safety programs, and helps our economy grow and flourish. So I want to commend Chairman Aderholt for his leadership of the subcommittee, and to thank Ranking Member Farr and the members of the subcommittee for holding the hearings and providing the feedback necessary to draft this bill. As always, I want to thank the hardworking staff, without whom we would not be here today. So I ask for support of this bill. Mrs. Lowey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate the efforts of Chairman Rogers. I'll thank you again, Mr. Chairman. I do appreciate the efforts of Chairman Rogers, Chairman Aderholt, and Ranking Member Farr in putting this bill together and holding this markup. Despite the President's proposal 5 months ago to end sequestration through more reasonable and realistic budgeting, Republicans have yet to engage on finding a workable solution. This is the 11th bill to be considered by the full committee, and like its predecessors, it has no chance of being signed into law because it would shortchange vital investments that help hard-working American families. For instance, the FDA would receive $116 million less than what it needs, preventing it from fully combating dangerous illnesses or overseeing our nation's food supply. Food for Peace would be cut by $49 million from current levels, meaning approximately 1.3 million men, women, and children will not receive life-saving food assistance. In addition, it excludes the administration's reasonable proposal to allow up to 25% of Title II resources to be made available in cash for emergencies to better respond to multiple high-level crises around the world. Since the proposed reforms would make Food for Peace more efficient, if enacted, we'd reach more people at no additional cost. The bill would shortchange the CFTC at $77 million below the request. Dodd-Frank is the law of the land, and the CFTC, like every regulator, needs the resources to do its job. Unfortunately, this bill would make it more difficult for the CFTC to meet the demands of regulating commodities and protecting the investments of end users and the public. Additionally, crucial funding for the WIC program is $139 million below the request. I hope, as we have done in years past, that we could commit to meeting full participation of the program so that mothers and children have access to healthy foods and nutrition education. While more than 21 million low-income children rely on free and reduced price meals at school, less than 3.7 million receive free meals in the summer when school is out. The administration proposed to strengthen the summer EBT program to reach 200,000 families a year. Yet, the bill would only provide a fraction of what was requested, which is far below what is really needed. As usual with the agricultural bill, I have concern with a number of riders, including attempts to politicize science on dietary guidelines and preventing improvements on sodium and whole grains. But there is one rider, my colleague, that I find so objectionable that I am really shocked at its inclusion. This bill would use the appropriations process to undermine the FDA by letting products such as e-cigarettes go unregulated, even at a time when e-cigarette use among teens has tripled. This provision comes on the heels of the committee reporting the labor HHS bill, which cut investments in smoking cessation and tobacco prevention at CDC by more than half. 6 years ago, the Tobacco Control Act gave the FDA the authority to protect the public health. These riders are an assault on the bipartisan effort to protect our public health and nothing short of a giveaway to the tobacco industry. And I want to say, my colleagues, I'm going to be doing an amendment later, but in case you haven't seen these in your neighborhood store, Yummy Gummy Bear, 15 milligrams of nicotine, Sweet Tart, Extra High, 24 milligrams, 2.4% nicotine by weight. These are appealing in many of our communities at stores all over where young people of all ages can just walk in. We'll discuss this later, but as you can see, I am outraged by the fact that this appears in our neighborhoods, easy access, no regulation. So it's my sincere hope that we can improve these shortcomings as this bill moves forward. Thank you, and again, I want to say it's been a pleasure for me to work with Chairman Aderholt, Ranking Member Farr, and I want to thank the entire staff for all their hard work, and of course, Chairman Rogers. Thank you.
Further discussion of the bill? Mr. Young?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank Subcommittee Chairman Adderholt and Ranking Member Farr for their attention to something that's been devastating my state and other states, the HPAI, the bird flu. So thank you for your support within the APHIS budget and some committee report language. Thank you, Full Committee Chairman Rogers and Ranking Member Lower. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Ms. Capter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Congresswoman McCollum. I also wanted to thank the chairman and the ranking member for producing this bill with all the constraints, but I wanted to, though I'm not going to offer an amendment later, I want to point something out relative to the APHIS budget, Animal Plant Health Inspection Service. And I would hope that as we move to the floor, that we might find a way to return APHIS's budget to its pre-sequestration levels. A Senate hearing yesterday revealed that, in fact, APHIS's veterinary services budget are down by about 225 employees from before sequestration. And, of course, these are the very services that are most necessary right now with this horrendous avian flu epidemic that is sweeping the country. For the record, Ohio is one of the largest egg-producing states in the country. It hasn't hit us yet, but it's coming our way. We know the outbreak has affected more than 48 million birds in 20 states, and USDA already has eradicated 7.5 million turkeys and 42 million chickens, approximately 3% of the annual turkey production of the country already, and 10% of the egg-laying chicken population. This is massive. This is a massive out. In fact, in some of the states, what's happened is they can't even figure out how to eradicate that many birds, how to bury them, how to sweep the houses, how to clean the houses, and we really are short in this budget. And APHIS is the actual program that deals with diagnosis of domestic and foreign animal diseases, support of disease control and eradication programs, reagents for diagnostic testing, and all the lab work that has to be done. So even though this budget is not as horrendous as it could have been, I just want to point out it is far below the amounts pre-sequestration, and I would hope that there's a way to relook at this before we move to the floor and maybe shift funds in some of the accounts. This outbreak is quite worrisome in agricultural states, and the pre-sequestration level of funding, particularly for veterinary services and for the diagnostics on the ground, states were not ready for this emergency. And I know Iowa, Minnesota, if we look around the country, there are certain places. I was talking to Steve King. He told me 75% of the birds in his area have been affected. Colin Peterson, I think half his turkey population has been wiped out. This is rather an ugly plague that started in Washington State, and it's moving eastward. And it keeps rolling through the states. We're not quite sure why, but these are massive kill-offs. So I would just ask the chairman and ranking member, and maybe the full committee chairman and ranking member, to take a look at how we could restore these employees to the APHIS functions and help us deal with this plague of the avian flu. And I thank the committee and the chairman for his forbearance.
Ms. McCollum?
Mr. Chairman, I want to take a moment to highlight the funding levels for the Food for Peace Title II program, and it's already been referenced in earlier opening remarks. But I want to thank the chairman and the ranking member for working as hard as they did to get the $17 million above the president's budget request. But unfortunately, this is still $49 million below fiscal year 2015. The Food for Peace Title II program funded at the amount that we do have in this bill still needs work, because this amount could mean 1.3 million fewer people could have access to life-changing assistance. So even though there's work to be done in this bill to fund up more for Food for Peace, but some of the countries have been mentioned before, but just think about countries like South Sudan, the food insecurity in Yemen, refugees in Kenya, and many other places around the world. And our ability to partner with these families to make sure that they have access to basic nutrition. So, Mr. Chair, I want to thank you for having the $17 million above the President's request. But I'd like to work with you, Mr. Farr, if at all possible, as allocations change, to see if we can get closer to at least a minimum of fiscal year 2015. But I do thank the Chair and the Ranking Member for the work that they did put in, but there's more work to do.
Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank the Chairman of the Subcommittee, Chairman Adderholt, as well as Ranking Member Farr, for including into this bill language regarding the use of salad bars in the schools. The recommended report from the USDA will emphasize the important role salad bar programs play in schools in making children healthier and more interested in nutrition, and I know the Ranking Member and I both share this interest. USDA is also looking into how current federal acquisition regulations prevent schools from purchasing salad bars through the school meals equipment grant program. I think this is a step in the right direction. We have 20 million children or more receive free or reduced lunches every day in our schools. On average, more than 30 million children participate in the National School Lunch Program daily, with more than 70% qualifying for free or reduced lunch. At the same time, 1/3 of the children in the United States are overweight or obese, putting them at increased risk for heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and other chronic illnesses. This is a great step in the right direction. I hope we can move forward. As this committee has heard me say before, in the next 5 years, we're going to have half of our country that's going to have either diabetes or pre-diabetes. And there's no way we're going to be able to balance the budget, take care of our healthcare system, be competitive as a country if we keep doing that. So building out a new food system starts with salad bars, gardens, kitchens in our schools, teaching kids how to eat healthy, drive down healthcare costs, balance the budget in the long run. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Fattah.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be brief, but I wanted to, because the Ranking Member Farr mentioned this, and I want to thank both the Chairman and the Ranking Member for the support provided, even though we need to do more in terms of the summer feeding program. I just want to tell everybody in this room that right now, today, in Philadelphia, there are 1,000 sites, Archdiocese of Philadelphia School District, rec centers, where young people are coming and they're getting, through the summer feeding EBT program, they're getting meals. Last summer, that was 4 million meals provided to some 300,000 young people in Philadelphia. And on their behalf, I thank you. We should be doing this all over the country to make sure that our young people get the kind of nutritional support that they need. And more should be being done because we know that there are children who are eligible by the school year numbers being so much greater than the summer numbers, that there are young people out in our communities that could be benefiting that or not. So more needs to be done. And I just want to thank the committee, because not only do we have those 1,000 sites, we also have thousands of young people through federally subsidized summer job programs working in those sites, helping these younger children eat and to eat nutritiously and to learn and play safely this summer. So I thank the Chairman and the Ranking Member for what they have done, and I would encourage all of you to be mindful that these are important programs that we need to find additional support for. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Mr. Dent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank the Chair and Ranking Member for putting together a good bill, which I'll be supporting today. I've had 4 or 5 members from both sides of the aisle ask me about where my sugar amendment is. Actually, there is not going to be one today, but trust me, there will be, since we are having many conversations about crony capitalism. No better subject than sugar to have that discussion on, and I look forward to having it at some point, but it won't be today. Thank you. Yield back.
Further discussion? Hearing none, are there amendments, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk.
Clerk will read
Amendment offered by Mr. Adderholt. I ask to dispense with the reading.
without objection.
Before you is a standard manager's amendment making non-controversial technical and requested changes to the bill and to the report. The amendment has been drafted in consultation and cooperation with the ranking member Farr, and I would urge the adoption of the amendment.
Mr. Farr.
Appreciate all the hard work, Chairman, done on this, and we support it.
Further discussion? Ms. Rovell-Allard?
I would like to thank the chair for including language that would defund the licensings or relicensing of random source Class B dealers. Unlike reputable Class A dealers who are specifically licensed to breed and sell animals needed for research, Class B dealers are licensed to buy animals from random sources, which include adoptions from animal shelters and sales from pet owners. Many of these adoptions and sales take place under false pretenses, where pet owners or custodians are misled about why the cats and dogs are being acquired. Other than random source animals are actually stolen pets or illegally trapped strays sold into research. Including this amendment in the manager's amendment takes the final step of eliminating the licensure of random source dealers in this country. So I thank you for including this language that will save taxpayer money and finally put an end to the horrible practice of random source dealers and their inhumane treatment of animals. Thank you.
Mr. Cuellar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also rise in support of the manager's amendment. I want to thank the chairman, the ranking member also for adding some of my amendments or some of my provisions, in particular the one that calls for a closer cooperation between the U.S. and Mexico when it talks about directing our secretary to work with Secretary Enrique Martinez, the Mexican secretary, to move the agricultural products across the border. You've been down there, Mr. Chairman, down to Laredo, and I think Chairman Carter's been down there, the largest inland port, and trying to be a little bit more efficient in passing that would be very beneficial for both countries. Finally, also, I just do want to mention also the citrus greening disease. It's important to South Texas. I know we worked with the friends in Florida. For our folks down there, it's something that's hit them hard, and I want to thank you for increasing the funds there. So, Chairman, I thank you so much also. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Laura.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, and Mr. Aderholt, Mr. Farr, thank you for support the manager's amendment, but want to say a particular thank you on the inclusion of Mr. Valadeo's language that has to do with the prohibiting the funding for the importation of beef from Brazil and Argentina until the USDA takes further steps to adequately evaluate the risks of doing so. I think that we haven't had a case of foot and mouth disease since 1929 in the U.S., and that's because of our strict ban against the importation of live animals or meat from countries like Brazil and Argentina. I would have loved to have seen us preventing USDA from moving forward, period, but I applaud this effort, and I think that we will take a look at what this evaluation is all about. I look forward to working with my colleague on that so that, in fact, we are protecting public health. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. McCollum.
I, too, would like to thank the chair, and I know that now, having been a ranking member myself, these are bipartisanly negotiated, so I thank Mr. Farr as well for the language to require USDA to review their policies and programs and to provide a report to Congress defining how to advance commercial-scale urban agriculture. While community gardens are great, and there's a great way to engage children, families, and seniors, we need to invest in new models that can help meet the demands of grocery stores. Urban agriculture has the potential to expand crop production without additional land. You know, for some of you who might not be familiar with this, here's just one quick example. Commercial urban agriculture, there's a group of people who started up Urban Organics based in St. Paul, which is in my district, and it uses an aquatic system to provide thousands of pounds of fresh fish and vegetables to local restaurants each month. It's been a huge win-win. So, Mr. Chair, thank you for including the language to have the USDA look at how we can be more effective in providing this type of unique agriculture. And with that, I yield back.
There being no further discussion, the question is on the manager's amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to. Mr. Farr.
I have an amendment at your desk.
Clerk will read. Which one? Which
I
one?
ask that the reading be waived.
Which amendment?
Number one, amendment number one on horse slaughter.
Reading is dispensed with.
Mr. Chairman, we're in such a bipartisan mood here, and I'd like to bring up an amendment that has had historical bipartisan support in this committee. It's not new to this committee. It's an amendment that was first added in FY06, and that was on the Ag Bill on the House floor by an overwhelming bipartisan vote of 269 to 158. And for the past 4 years, we've debated the amendment and enjoyed the leadership of Congressman Moran and now Mr. Jolly's our former Congressman Bill Young. And we have voted to add it to this bill each year. This is we don't eat horse meat in the United States. And therefore and slaughtering horses is much different than slaughtering other animals because we don't grow them for that purpose. And that's, if you think about a horse, it's probably the only long-necked animal that we have, and in that, and my daughter raises horses and trains them, and it's very difficult to slaughter them humanely. The American public in all of the communities where these slaughterhouses have been proposed has rejected them in different states around the country, and many of you representing those states. And so what we've done in the federal level is to prohibit the inspection of this slaughter process by our USDA veterinarians. Without inspection, you can't slaughter horses. So there's no market for it in the United States. The only thing we've been marketing for is for foreign markets. And American public just reject it. So 76% of the people in Iowa rejected the horse slaughter when the operators proposed that the plant be built there, and it was canceled. And it goes on in New Mexico, the same thing, Missouri, the same thing. The USDA has essentially only about less than 1% of the horses raised in the United States were even eligible for slaughter. The USDA has included an ask for the defund request in their budget in the last 3 years. So what once again, I've taken the place of our colleagues, Mr. Moran and Mr. Young, in proposing this bipartisan amendment, and hope that it will be passed in a bipartisan manner. And for the argument that if you don't have people buying these horses for horse meat purposes in other countries, that you're just going to abandon them. Well, California prohibited horse slaughter in 1998, I believe it was, and we've had no indication of increased abandonment. When you think about it, as I talked to my daughter, what happens? She said, well, we treat horses just like you treat every other animal on the farm when it dies. You have a rendering company come pick it up. And that's the way we deal with animals. We don't put them off to slaughter so that we can then eat them. And so the abandonment issue is not really a big problem. And I represent a rural area and a lot of cattle people who have horses. And yes, once in a while, a horse will be left in a field, or actually, as Mr. Calvert told me, sometimes left in somebody's horse trailer. But the amount of that is very tiny percentage of the horses that ever end up that way. So we ask that you support this amendment by simply continuing the current policy. Thank you.
Chairman Adderholt.
Yeah, well, I rise in opposition to the amendment. I know this has been an emotional issue for many of us on the committee, but have to look at some basic critical facts regarding this issue. Supporting this amendment does not stop the slaughter of horses. It just simply shifts the issue to offshore and out of sight. Each year, the U.S. exports more than 100,000 horses to be slaughtered in Mexico and Canada. Once the horses leave the United States, we have no idea that they will be treated humanely. If we allow USDA to do its job, we know the horses will be processed under humane handling with food safety laws in place, including those with potential drug residues. So I would encourage my colleagues to vote against the amendment.
Well, the gentleman yield. Gentleman yield.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I'd like to associate myself with the remarks of the chairman. Mr. Laura.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in support of this amendment, and that is would prohibit funding for inspections of horse slaughter facilities. It's the same amendment that's been offered and accepted in this committee and on the House floor in recent years. And Congress has repeatedly made its position clear. We will not support horse slaughter. A variety of good reasons for this. One of the best is the concern for the safety of our food supply. Horses, as Mr. Farr pointed out, are not raised for food in this country. That means they are given a daily dose of substances that are unfit for human consumption. Drugs, dewormers, fly sprays, and ointments. These keep horses healthy, but they are known to be toxic to humans when eaten. All you need to do is to read the labels on these products. You will find that it says very clearly, and I quote, "not for animals intended for human consumption." That reflects an FDA ban. We should follow this advice, and we should avoid putting federal dollars into an industry that threatens our health. I urge my colleagues to support this amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in support of the ranking member's amendment. We've debated this issue now many times over the years. As far as I'm concerned, this is not a partisan issue, and it is a settled matter. And the consensus of this Congress and the American public is that this language should be supported. I say let's include it and move on. Yield back. Thank you.
Mr. McCollum. Robel Allard.
Mr. Chairman, I also rise in support of the amendment offered by my colleague from California. As been said, in the United States, horses are raised as companion animals, and 80% of Americans strongly oppose the slaughter of horses for human consumption. As has been stated, unlike animals raised for food, the vast majority of horses sent to slaughter have been exposed to multiple chemical substances known to be dangerous to humans. And there is no system in the United States to track medications and veterinary treatments given to horses to ensure that their meat is safe for human consumption. Moreover, the process of horse slaughter, whether in the United States or in foreign plants, is inherently inhumane because of the nature of the industry and the unique biology of horses. In fact, before the last domestic plant closed in 2007, the USDA documented rampant cruelty violations and severe injuries to horses that were inflicted before slaughter, including broken bones protruding from their bodies, eyeballs hanging from a thread of skin, and gaping wounds. Besides horse slaughter, there are humane solutions to the problems of overpopulation of aging horses. We can scrub overbreeding, educate owners about the other rehoming options, and expand adoption work. I encourage my colleagues to support the FAR amendment to ensure that the U.S. does not again become home to this wasteful, inhumane, dangerous, and unneeded industry.
Mr. Cole.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in opposition to the amendment, with all due respect to my friend. I live in horse country. Actually, the congressional district I represent has the 7th highest number of horses. We're not quite Kentucky, but we're pretty close. And we raise everything from quarter horses to thoroughbreds. There's a great deal of affection for the animals, great deal of support. But with all due respect again to my friend, if you think there's not horse dumping, I can show you. I can take you to places where people just let horses loose and they die in inhumane conditions. I can also show you we have over 20,000 horses in our state that are not from our state. They're from out in the plains. And the federal government pays about $7 a day to feed them. They're not going anywhere. At some point, you have to have some way to manage this population, and particularly when they're wild horses, they simply have no natural predators whatsoever. They are the biggest, fastest things on the plains. They weren't meant to be there. They were brought here several hundred years ago, so they don't have no enemies. And so at some point, it is incredibly cruel to the animals, is incredibly unfair in many cases where people have these horses let loose on their property. They're trying to do the right thing. There has to be some logical way to begin to manage the population. So with all due respect, I want to defend the chairman's position here and oppose the amendment.
Mr. Quigley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, let's compare what's humane. According to the USDA, 92% of all horses sent to slaughter are in good condition, meaning they would be capable of leading full and productive lives. And suffering for these horses begins before they reach the slaughterhouse. The transportation of horses in these facilities often results in serious trauma, injury, and death. They are transported without food, water, or rest for days. Due to their skittish nature, these animals cannot be humanely slaughtered. The pre-slaughter stunning process results in repeated painful blows and attempts to corral the horses, despite their strong flight reflexes. Even with inflicted injuries and forced paralysis, horses are not always unconscious during dismemberment. Horse slaughter is not a substitute for euthanasia. Euthanasia is painless and gentle, done to prevent suffering. Slaughter is painful, drawn out, and torturous. Horses have a special place in our society, and I understand that many horse-owning Americans consider their horses as part of the family. I encourage and I vote.
Lee?
I rise in full support of Congressman Farr's amendment to really defend horse slaughter and associate myself with to defund horse slaughter, and to really associate myself with the remarks that have been made. But let's be clear on this. This also is an issue of our federal tax dollars subsidizing animal cruelty at a time when these resources are critically needed for our underfunded federal programs. This really should not be a controversial issue. Some 80% of Americans oppose horse slaughter, and I hear from thousands of my constituents regarding this issue every year. Instead of expending funds to support cruel, unnecessary, and inhumane practices, we really should be protecting these animals, more than 90% of which are currently sent to slaughter in good conditions. Now, my granddaughter is an equestrian, and I have learned about this terrible practice on a very personal level, which has helped inform my views on this issue. So let's adopt this very important amendment and put an end to this irresponsible practice. I ask for an aye vote on Mr. Farr's amendment.
Mr. Israel?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in very strong support of this amendment for several reasons. Number one, there is, as Mr. Quigley said, no humane way to slaughter a horse. It is impossible, whether it is done in the United States or abroad. There is no humane way to slaughter a horse. Secondly, the subsidizing of horse slaughter is costing millions of dollars that can be invested in more important and safer priorities. As Ms. Lee said, 80% of Americans oppose horse slaughter, and they oppose it not just on the grounds of humaneness, but also because they know that horses carry potential toxins. They don't want to ingest those toxins, and there is no way of monitoring the medical history of horses. So for those and many other reasons, Mr. Chairman, I support this amendment.
Mr. Farr is recognized to close.
Continues a policy. Only 1% of the horses in America are slaughtered. It's just inhumane for all the reasons you've told. It's not food safe. But more importantly, people recognize that there are other alternatives to it. Not only euthanizing their horses, which my daughter does when they can't adopt out, but there are 550 rescue organizations in the United States, including the Navajo Nation, Homes for Horses Coalition, Veterinarians for Equine Welfare, the Humane Society of the United States, Animal Welfare Institute, the American Society of Prevention of Cruelty of Animals. All of these organizations have, in your states, people that do adopt out. There are a lot of charity looking for horses. So there are alternatives. There are alternatives to this inhumane practice, which doesn't lead to any benefit for anybody in the United States. We ought to ban it. I vote.
Question is on the Farr Amendment. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. No. The noes seem to have it. The noes have it. The amendment's not agreed to. A request for a recorded vote is granted.
Mr. Adderholt? No. Mr. Adderholt, no. Mr. Amedee? No. Mr. Amedee, no. Mr. Bishop? Yes. Mr. Bishop, aye. Mr. Calvert? No. Mr. Calvert, no. Mr. Carter? No. Mr. Carter, no. Mr. Cole? Mr. Cole, no. Mr. Crenshaw? Mr. Crenshaw, aye. Mr. Cuellar? No. Mr. Cuellar, no. Mr. Culberson? Ms. DeLauro? Aye. Ms. DeLauro, aye. Mr. Dent? Aye. Mr. Dent, aye. Mr. Diaz-Balart? No. Mr. Diaz-Balart, no. Mr. Farr? Aye. Mr. Farr, aye. Mr. Fattah? Mr. Fattah, aye. Mr. Fleischman? No. Mr. Fleischman, no. Mr. Fortenberry? No. Mr. Fortenberry, no. Mr. Frelinghuysen? Mr. Frelinghuysen, no. Ms. Granger? No. Ms. Granger, no. Mr. Graves? Mr. Graves, no. Dr. Harris? Dr. Harris, no. Ms. Hera Butler? Ms. Hera Butler, no. Mr. Honda? Mr. Honda, aye. Mr. Israel? Aye. Mr. Israel, aye. Mr. Jenkins? Mr. Jenkins, no. Mr. Jolly? Mr. Jolly, aye. Mr. Joyce? Mr. Joyce, aye. Ms. Capter? Aye. Ms. Capter, aye. Mr. Kilmer? Mr. Kilmer, aye. Ms. Lee? Ms. Lee, aye. Mrs. Lilly?
Aye.
Mrs. Lilly, aye. Ms. McCollum? Ms. McCollum, aye. Mr. Palazzo? Mr. Palazzo, no. Ms. Pingree? Aye. Ms. Pingree, aye. Mr. Price? Mr. Price, aye. Mr. Quigley? Mr. Quigley, aye. Mr. Ridgel? Mr. Ridgel, no. Mrs. Roby? Mrs. Roby, no. Mr. Rogers? Mr. Rogers, no. Mr. Rooney? Ms. Robo-Allard? Ms. Robo-Allard, aye. Mr. Rupersberger? Mr. Rupersberger, aye. Mr. Ryan? Mr. Ryan, aye. Mr. Serrano? Mr. Serrano, aye. Mr. Simpson? Mr. Simpson, no. Mr. Stewart? Mr. Stewart, no. Mr. Valadeo? Mr. Valadeo, no. Mr. Visklosky? Mr. Visklosky? Ms. Wasserman Schultz? Ms. Wasserman Schultz, aye. Mr. Womack? Mr. Womack, no. Mr. Yoder? Mr. Yoder, aye. Mr. Young? Mr. Young, no.
Are there members who wish to be recorded or change their vote? Clerk will tally. On this amendment, the yeas are 24, the nays are 24, and the amendment's not agreed to. Ms. DeLauro.
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk. It's amendment number 1.
Clerk will read.
Amendment offered by Ms. DeLauro, beginning on page 84.
I ask unanimous consent to dispense with the reading.
Without objection.
Mr. Chairman, Americans eat nearly half of their meals and their snacks outside of their homes. And the research shows that many of these foods have more calories and poorer nutritional quality than those meals that are prepared at home. Last December, the Food and Drug Administration finalized its menu labeling rules for restaurants and for similar retail food establishments. It requires those that are part of a chain with 20 or more locations to provide calorie and other nutrition information for standard menu items, including food on display and self-service food. As many of you may know, I was one of the chief sponsors of the menu labeling provisions that have been included in the Affordable Care Act, and I am very pleased that the final rule covers the full range of chain food service establishments, including fast food and sit-down restaurants, supermarkets, convenience stores, and movie theaters, as the Congress intended. FDA's rule stipulated an implementation date of December 1st, 2015. Over the past year, FDA has done extensive outreach to industry to communicate the provisions in the rule. The agency has provided a compliance guide for small entities, answered questions from industry. Between the rule and FDA's efforts, industry has more than enough information to implement menu labeling. Yet, this rider could delay implementation beyond another 2 years. I believe that that is unacceptable. I understand that FDA has not yet finalized proposed formal guidance to industry. However, the agency is working to finalize broad guidance on compliance and intends to issue this soon. Guidance is an additional resource. It is not necessary for industry to know how to comply. It is not clear why industry claims to need the guidance. I believe this is simply an effort to stonewall implementation on this important public health tool. I understand it takes time to change signage, packaging, and data systems, which is why I'm willing to concede a delay of implementation until December 1st, 2016, a full calendar year. But ultimately, we need to make sure that consumers have the nutrition information available to them when making purchasing decisions. It is already 5 years and counting since menu labeling became law. Any further delay is, again, in my view, unacceptable, and I urge my colleagues to support the amendment, which would allow for a 1-year delay of implementation to December 1st, 2016. I thank you, and I would ask you for your support for the amendment.
Chairman Adderholt.
Mr. Chairman, I rise in opposition to the amendment. Just a little bit of background on this. The Congress included instructions within the FY15 explanatory statement for FDA to work with industry and other stakeholders in issuing a guidance document for complying with the menu regulations by March 1st of 15. FDA did not complete the guidance documents by March 1st, and it has not issued a comprehensive guide to the date. A number of organizations are unclear as to how they need to comply. This provision is necessary to allow for at least 2 years for the compliance with FDA's final menu labeling regulation and at least 1 year for compliance with final FDA published guidance. This time frame would be consistent with both the vending machine compliance time and the compliance window granted by the FDA for the Nutrition Labeling and Education Act. And so I'd urge my colleagues to oppose this amendment.
Mr. Washburn-Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in support of Mr. Laurel's amendment because we have to think about common sense here. 7 years, I mean, under the underlying bill that we're considering here, we're actually saying that restaurants need 7 years to comply with menu labeling. You know, this is becoming an absolute necessity and something that consumers expect. I can tell you as someone who, and I've discussed my own evolution with you very publicly about how I have changed, how I make food consumption decisions, and for me, it is really important, and for millions of people like me who really want to make sure that we understand what we're putting in our bodies and what the calorie intake is that we're regulating. When you walk up to a restaurant, whether it's a McDonald's or other fast food restaurant or a restaurant that is a national chain, or a smaller restaurant for that matter. I mean, Ms. DeLauro's original language was very reasonable, which I helped her negotiate when we were considering the Affordable Care Act legislation. 20 locations, it was not too much to ask. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we give consumers more information about what they are putting into their bodies, about the calorie intake that they are consuming. And I mean, I remind you what Mr. Ryan said. Imagine, we are getting close to 50% of Americans who will be either pre-diabetic or diabetic. Diabetes is a life-threatening disease. We've got to make sure that we apply some rational, reasonable decision-making when it comes to eventually implementing this provision fully. It's going to happen. delaying it is just delaying the inevitable and causing people to make more unhealthy decisions and increasing our overall health care costs. So when Republicans who criticize the Affordable Care Act and talk about the increased health care costs, by delaying this provision, you are doing exactly what you supposedly oppose, increasing health care costs. Thank you. I urge the members to adopt the amendment.
Mr. Lauro is recognized to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this is essentially, and the Restaurant Association worked very, very closely to craft the menu labeling rule, and it essentially says let's just put the calories up on the board. And it's about transparency. People will make a decision on their own. You can decide to throw caution to the wind and do what you want, or you can take a look at what that calorie level is and make a determination as to if you want to go ahead and purchase this product. So calorie, nutrition, transparency, it is crucial for addressing the twin public health crises of obesity, type 2 diabetes, as my colleague pointed out. The rule will require restaurants and establishments selling restaurant-style food, like grocery and convenience stores, to provide the nutrition information. It helps to empower people to make choices. Many businesses are supportive of the law. They're moving forward. Dunkin' Donuts CEO Nigel Travis supports the menu labeling requirements. This gives clear, upfront, nutritional information at chain restaurants, grocery and convenience stores, and other retailers, helping them to eat healthier food and have healthier lives. I urge my colleagues, the delay is just for the sake of delay. It will not take that long to implement this rule.
Question is on the DeLauro amendment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. No. The noes have it. The amendment is not agreed to. Other amendments. Ms. Lee.
And an amendment at the desk. This is Lee Amendment Number 1.
Clerk will read.
Amendment offered by Ms. Lee.
Ask for unanimous consent.
Without objection, the reading is dispensed.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, this is really a very simple amendment, and I hope we can get bipartisan support on it. It asks for USDA to report to Congress on the impacts of banning nutrition assistance to formerly incarcerated individuals with drug convictions. Let me begin by saying that I think that we finally reached a point of some bipartisan understanding when it comes to criminal justice reform. Events around our nation have left no doubt that policies of mass incarceration and draconian drug sentencing are not working and need to be reformed. The ban on SNAP eligibility, however, is a reform that is badly needed. And I just want to read to you just a little bit of history, and this was in an article very recently by Alan Pike in Think Progress. Committing a drug crime was supposed to be a permanent ban on a person from food stamps and welfare benefits under a little discussed provision of the Clinton-Gingrich reform. So this was a bipartisan ban that was negotiated. It was put forth in the welfare reform bill by Senator Phil Gramm of Texas, who designed the legislation to kick in automatically nationwide unless state legislatures actively opted out. Many did immediately, but for well over a decade, the majority of the country's public assistance jurisdictions maintained Graham's ban in full. When it was debated on the floor in the Senate, which was, I think, 2 minutes, Senator Kennedy, and I want to point out what he said. He said that Graham's idea would mean that if you are a murderer, a rapist, or a robber, you can get federal funds. But if you are convicted even for possession of marijuana, you cannot. But of course, Graham insisted that we ought not to give people welfare benefits who are violating the nation's laws. But let me just say, this form really is a retroactive form of punishment if denied SNAP benefits. It really impacts the majority of African American Latino men who are coming out of jail and who need food stamps just as a way to transition back into society. Many, as you know, go back into jail because of the fact that these benefits, Pell Grant restrictions, SNAP benefits, public assistance benefits, the support that's necessary really were banned on a bipartisan basis through the welfare reform bill. And so this amendment just asks Congress to do a thorough assessment, the Department of Agriculture, to do a thorough assessment of the real impacts that this ban has had on people's lives in our communities. The USDA needs to provide Congress with the real impacts as we work together towards reforming our criminal justice system. I hope you can support this amendment. It's just asking for a report. And once again, a lot of members don't know the history of this, but to ban eligibility for SNAP benefits based on drug convictions only, no other conviction, to me is very wrong. It really does have a discriminatory impact on African American and Latino families, and I hope we would just ask for USDA to conduct this study. That's very reasonable, and I ask for an aye vote.
Chair recognizes himself. The people who are sentenced on drug convictions are almost always the purveyors of drugs, the sellers, the pushers. My district has been hit by prescription pill abuse unlike any other. And we've spent years trying to get rid of the people who are poisoning and killing our kids. And for the federal government to say to these people, we're going to give you a helping hand to help you get back out on the street, is wrong. Now, some states have changed the ban, some have modified it, some have removed it. And let it be up to the states, for all I care. But for the federal government to say to states, we're going to modify what you're doing with drug dealers, whether you like it or not, violates the whole idea of a Republican form of government. So I oppose the gentlelady's amendment. Mr. Farr.
Mr. Chairman, in all due respect, the amendment only asks for a study. And I'll just tell you experiences I've had with a stand-down, which is where you try to bring in all the homeless veterans to deal with all of their problems, and the whole community comes out and supports it, doctors and lawyers and judges and everybody. It was fascinating to talk to these veterans of what was the single most helpful service given to them. And they said when the judges could forgive their crimes of not paying student loans, their crimes of being vagrant, and so on, that lifting that penalty was the biggest benefit they could receive. Why? Because then they were entitled to all these other programs that were helping them get out of poverty. It seems to me that if we really want these programs to work and we want to stop recidivism, we've got to deal with the programs that are designed for that purpose. And we ought to be looking and reviewing whether these penalties, probably for the right reasons, as the chairman has indicated, but should they be across the board? And are they causing people to go back into prison because now they can't get a start? So I think it's worth amending this bill to add the study, and that's all it does.
Chairman Adderholt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I rise in opposition to the amendment, and I think the chairman of the full committee explained it very well, and I think it needs to be stressed that this was a bipartisan bill that was worked out back during the Clinton administration and signed into law by President Clinton. And so I think that, as the chairman said, a vast majority of states have laws in place that remove or modify this ban. But it would not be a best use of taxpayer dollars to require USDA to study an issue that most states have already addressed. So I would ask my colleagues to oppose the amendment.
Please recognize the close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, first of all, I just have to respectfully disagree with you as it relates to the prison population. The majority of young men who have been incarcerated under drug convictions are African-American young men and Latino young men who are not pushers of drugs. They got caught up in the, quote, war on drugs. Secondly, when an individual pays their dues to society, they do their time, they've done their time. and they get out of jail based on our system. And when they get out of jail, they deserve a second chance. And that's all we're asking, is for the USDA to study what giving these young African American and Latino men a second chance would mean. Thirdly, when you look at the other convictions, for instance, people who commit murder or rape and get out of jail, they're eligible for SNAP benefits. Those convicted of drug charges are not. And so I would ask you to look at the very discriminatory impact this has. This was a federal law. This was a Clinton-Gingrich agreement. Yes, it was bipartisan, and so I think that the USDA certainly has the responsibility and jurisdiction to study the impact of what this would mean if we could agree on a bipartisan basis. I ask for an aye vote.
Question is on the Lee amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. No. Noes have it. The amendment's not agreed to. Is someone requesting a recorded vote?
Yes, requested.
Recorded vote is requested. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Adderholt? No. Mr. Adderholt, no. Mr. Amadei? Mr. Amadei, no. Mr. Bishop? Yes. Mr. Bishop, aye. Mr. Calvert? Mr. Calvert, no. Mr. Carter? Mr. Carter, no. Mr. Cole? Mr. Cole, no. Mr. Crenshaw? Mr. Crenshaw, no. Mr. Cuellar? Mr. Cuellar, no. Mr. Culberson? Ms. DeLauro? Ms. DeLauro, aye. Mr. Dent? Mr. Dent, no. Mr. Diaz-Balart? Mr. Diaz-Balart, no. Mr. Farr? Aye. Mr. Farr, aye. Mr. Fatah? Mr. Fatah, aye. Mr. Fleischman? Mr. Fleischman, no. Mr. Fortenberry? Mr. Fortenberry, no. Mr. Feelinghuisen? Mr. Feelinghuisen, no. Ms. Granger? Ms. Granger, no. Mr. Graves? Mr. Graves, no. Dr. Harris? Ms. Herrera-Butler? Mr. Honda? Mr. Honda, aye. Mr. Israel? Mr. Israel, aye. Mr. Jenkins? Mr. Jenkins, no. Mr. Jolly? Mr. Jolly, no. Mr. Joyce? Mr. Joyce, no. Ms. Capter? Ms. Capter, aye. Mr. Kilmer? Mr. Kilmer, aye. Ms. Lee? Ms. Lee, aye. Mrs. Lilly? Aye. Mrs. Lilly, aye. Ms. McCollum? Ms. McCollum, aye. Mr. Palazzo? Mr. Palazzo, no. Ms. Pingree? Ms. Pingree, aye. Mr. Price? Mr. Price, aye. Mr. Quigley? Mr. Quigley, aye. Mr. Ridgel? Mr. Ridgel, no. Mrs. Roby? Mrs. Roby, no. Mr. Rogers? Mr. Rogers, no. Mr. Rooney? Mr. Rooney, aye. Ms. Robo-Allard? Ms. Robo-Allard, aye. Mr. Ruppersberger? Mr. Ruppersberger, aye. Mr. Ryan? Mr. Ryan, aye. Mr. Serrano? Mr. Serrano, aye. Mr. Simpson? Mr. Simpson, no. Mr. Stewart? Mr. Valadeo? Mr. Valadeo, no. Mr. Visklosky? Mr. Visklosky, aye. Ms. Wasserman Schultz? Ms. Wasserman Schultz, aye. Mr. Womack? Mr. Womack, no. Mr. Yoder? Mr. Yoder, no. Mr. Young? Mr. Young, no.
Other members who wish to be recorded?
The gentleman is not recorded. Mr. Stewart, no. Dr. Harris, no.
Herrera-Butler?
Ms. Herrera-Butler, no.
Any member wish to change their vote? Clerk will tally. On this vote, the ayes are 21, the nays are 29. The amendment's not agreed to. Other amendments? Ms. DeLauro? Are there other amendments? Mr. Fortenberry? Clerk will read.
Amendment offered by Mr. Fortenberry in Section 739 relating to commodities.
Without objection. Use the microphone, please.
Mr. Chairman, first of all, let me say how much I appreciate the hard work that Chairman Adderholt has put into this bill. I served on this subcommittee last term. I have a strong background in agricultural policy, spent 8 years on the Ag Committee itself, and in a few days, thousands of Nebraska school kids will enter the fields at an unseemly hour when it's cold and wet and dark, and work all day long until it's hot and fighting off corn rash and insects in an annual ritual we call detasseling. And this extraordinary event really marks the character of our state because young people experience this connection early on between effort and reward. And it's really a special part of who we are as a people. And this indicates, I think, the type of the part of the country that I come from. It's big ag country, and I'm very proud to represent it. We're the largest livestock production state in the country, surpassing our good friends from Texas recently. In that regard, though, that's why I offer this amendment, because I believe it's an issue of fairness and actually strengthens agricultural policy. In the underlying bill, what we are doing is effectively restoring something called the commodity certificate. This was not renewed in the 08 and 014 farm bills, but nonetheless, if we need to do that, that's fine to help a certain segment of the agricultural economy. The problem, though, exists that there is a settled piece of law called payment limits, whereby any farmer gets to receive $125,000 of payments. If you're a farm couple, you get to receive $250,000 of payments. That's a lot of money. I'm concerned that the effect of the restoration of the commodity certificate program could exceed the farm limitations that are already settled law. So my amendment simply says, if we're going to go forward with this, which I have no problem with, that we also say that it has to adhere to existing law, the existing payment limits that are already set up.
Chairman Adderholt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise to oppose the amendment. I know Mr. Fortenberry has worked diligently on this issue, but the bill includes a provision that will allow for flexibility in marketing loans for farmers and ranchers by providing marketing certificates. This provision would ensure farmers are not penalized under existing law for the orderly marketing of commodities, which ensures stable prices and supply as required by law. I have talked to a lot of these individuals that are affected by this, particularly sit down with them, and they have told me that they are put at a disadvantage the way the law is written now. So what this, our bill would do would fix the problem. It would simply allow a farmer who plants multiple crops throughout the year to utilize all the risk management tools, including crop insurance, conservation program, and marketing loans at their disposal. The marketing certificates would allow a farmer in certain circumstances to buy back his crops, which are used as collateral in a marketing loan. Without these marketing certificates, USDA will be forced to take possession of the commodities and sell them. This means USDA will be forced to pay for storage, for handling, and interest costs. Without this provision that we've included in this bill, the government will incur more expense and the farmers will lose flexibility in their farming operations. So I'd urge my colleagues to oppose this amendment.
Mr. Farr.
Chairman, we support the amendment.
Mr. Laurel.
I rise in support of the amendment. The rider would allow the largest farms in the country to evade the payment limit on the marketing loan gains. This issue was settled in 2014. The payment limit applies to all types of commodity program benefits without exception. And what we are essentially doing here is reopening the farm bill in an appropriations bill, which we shouldn't be doing. Not a minor change. According to CBO, if allowed to become law, it will cost the taxpayer $52 million. This is wasting resources to enable people to escape a payment limit that's the law of the land. The bill changes permanent farm law. It triggers a taxpayer cost each and every year that the certificates are issued, which is wrong, especially when we continue to speak about a growing budget deficit. It is neither prudent nor is it responsible, and I urge my colleagues to support this amendment.
Mr. Fortenberry may close.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, I think it's necessary also to point out that the CBO has scored this, because what it in effect does, and while I do not disagree with the merits of what the chairman has suggested in allowing some additional flexibilities, marketing tools for certain sectors of our agricultural community, nonetheless, the settled law is $250,000 per couple if you farm for all your various subsidy programs. That's a lot of money. If we don't do this, this will add $5 million of cost per year. It scores at $50 million over the 10 years. I urge adoption of the amendment.
Question is on the Fortenberry amendment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. No. The noes seem to have it. The noes have it. The amendment is not agreed to. Other amendments? Ms. Lee?
I have an amendment at the desk. It's Lee Amendment Number 2.
Clerk will read.
Dispense for the, from the reading, asking unanimous.
With that objection,
Ms. Lee.
the ladies recognized.
Okay, this amendment would fund an innovative and effective program, which is the Health Food Financing Initiative. It would fund it to the President's request of $12.7 million. The Healthy Food Financing Initiative provides one-time loan and grant financing to healthy food retailers to invest in low-income and in rural communities. As many of you know, in communities around the country, both urban and rural, some 29 Americans face barriers to accessing healthy and fresh foods. As we all know, all too often, those facing the toughest barriers are the most vulnerable, low-income Americans and communities of color. This program allows for health food retailers to gain a foothold in communities that are currently underserved, promoting not only access to healthy foods, but also an anchor for job creation, economic development, and opportunity. In fact, through the over 200 successful projects financed by the HFFI, which is the Healthy Foods Financing Initiative, some 3,000 jobs have been created or retained. This is a federal program that really creates many, many positive solutions. From farmers markets and co-ops to grocery stores and supermarkets, this financing and these grants have leveraged about $1 billion in investments for just $140 million in awards since 2011. Now, I've been lucky to visit Mandela Marketplace, which is an organization located in West Oakland in my congressional district. Mandela Marketplace has leveraged these funds to incubate healthy food enterprises, increase sales of healthy food at their cooperative grocery store. This increase is about 50%, and also support local farms through wholesale produce distribution. These are model programs that show how our federal investments can make a huge difference in the health and livelihood of our communities. To date, this committee has not funded the portion of this program funded through the Ag Bill. It is time we change that and give American families access to the foods and opportunities they need. So I ask for support of this amendment.
Chairman Adderholt.
I rise to oppose the amendment. It is a duplicative of existing programs at the Treasury Department through its Community Development Finance Institution Fund. Currently, there are no regulations in place at USDA to govern this program that Mrs. Lee has proposed, which means that there are no controls or management systems in place to ensure the taxpayers' money is used wisely. Furthermore, the amendment has no offset, and which would make the bill exceed the allocation and would, of course, cause a lot of trouble as we continue on with the bill. So I'd urge my colleagues to oppose the amendment.
Further discussion? Ms. Lee may close.
Thank you. Well, let me just say this is a program that has been authorized. I'd like to ensure that the USDA, they could implement this very quickly. It has not been funded. I think it was the 2014 Farm Bill where it was authorized. It has great value, and the impact is very well noted through the pilot programs. This deserves full funding and support of this committee, so I ask for an aye vote.
Question is on the Lee amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. No. Noes have it. The amendment's not agreed to. Request for recorded vote is granted. Yes. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Adderholt. Mr. Adderholt, no. Mr. Amadei. Mr. Amadei, no. Mr. Bishop. Yes. Mr. Bishop, aye. Mr. Calvert. Mr. Calvert, no. Mr. Carter. No. Mr. Carter, no. Mr. Cole. Mr. Cole, no. Mr. Crenshaw. Mr. Crenshaw, no. Mr. Cuellar. Mr. Cuellar, aye. Mr. Culberson. Ms. DeLauro. Aye. Ms. DeLauro, aye. Mr. Dent. Mr. Dent, no. Mr. Diaz-Balart. Mr. Diaz-Balart, no. Mr. Farr. Aye. Mr. Farr, aye. Mr. Fatah. Mr. Fatah, aye. Mr. Fleischman. Mr. Fleischman, no. Mr. Fortenberry. Mr. Fortenberry, no. Mr. Frelinghuysen. Mr. Feelingheisen, no. Ms. Granger? Ms. Granger, no. Mr. Graves? Mr. Graves, no. Dr. Harris? Dr. Harris, no. Ms. Hera Butler? Ms. Hera Butler, no. Mr. Honda? Mr. Honda, aye. Mr. Israel? Aye. Mr. Israel, aye. Mr. Jenkins? Mr. Jenkins, no. Mr. Jolly? Mr. Jolly, no. Mr. Joyce? Mr. Joyce, no. Ms. Capter? Aye. Ms. Capter, aye. Mr. Kilmer? Mr. Kilmer, aye. Ms. Lee? Ms. Lee, aye. Mrs. Lowy?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowy, aye. Ms. McCollum? Ms. McCollum, aye. Mr. Palazzo? Mr. Palazzo, no. Ms. Pingree? Ms. Pingree, aye. Mr. Price? Mr. Price, aye. Mr. Quigley? Mr. Quigley, aye. Mr. Ridgel? Mr. Ridgel, no. Mrs. Roby? Mrs. Roby, no. Mr. Rogers? Mr. Rogers, no. Mr. Rooney? Mr. Rooney, no. Ms. Robo Allard? Ms. Robo Allard, aye. Mr. Ruppersberger? Mr. Ruppersberger, aye. Mr. Ryan? Mr. Ryan, aye. Mr. Serrano? Mr. Serrano, aye. Mr. Simpson? Mr. Simpson, no. Mr. Stewart? Mr. Stewart, no. Mr. Valadeo? Mr. Valadeo, no. Mr. Viscoski? Mr. Viscoski, aye. Ms. Wasserman Schultz? Ms. Wasserman Schultz, aye. Mr. Womack? Mr. Womack, no. Mr. Yoder? Mr. Yoder, no. Mr. Young? Mr. Young, no.
I hear a horse. Is that a horse? Any member wish to be recorded or change their vote? Clerk will tally. On this vote, the yeas are 21, the nays are 29. Amendment's not agreed to. Ms. Lowy.
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk. Ask unanimous consent.
Which one?
Number 1.
Clerk will read.
Been offered by Mrs. Lowy.
Without objection, reading is dispensed with.
This bill would prioritize the tobacco industry over public health by handcuffing FDA's ability to regulate a new generation of tobacco products. My friend, Chairman Aderholt, refers to language as a, quote, technical change. There's nothing technical about this language. We have before us a wolf in sheep's clothing. This bill would allow them to stay on the market, these products, and you have pictures of them which I have circulated, without an FDA pre-market review, and open the door for similar products to avoid FDA review down the road. Worse, many of these products are aimed at children, including a substantial number of the current 7,000 flavors of e-cigarettes. I read them before. They have all these names that you'd be interested in, I know. Yummy Gummy Bear, and you can see them all on this sheet. Many of these products, obviously by the name, or maybe you'd go in and be interested in Yummy Gummy Bear. Many of these products are aimed at children, including a substantial number of the current 7,000 flavors of e-cigarettes. Bubble gum, gummy bears, Swedish fish. Let's not make any mistake about this. These products are aimed at kids, and the use among youth is exploding. According to the CDC and the FDA, the use of e-cigarettes has tripled in just 1 year, from 2013 to 2014, and now exceeds youth use of regular cigarettes. Studies show that nicotine is highly addictive. Nicotine exposure can also harm the adolescent brain and cause cognitive impairment, attention deficits, and other health issues. We don't know what chemicals are added to these products. The committee should not be pretending to be scientists. We should let the FDA do the job. Thank you. I hope you have taken this argument seriously and will join me in supporting this amendment.
Chairman Aderholt.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I rise in opposition to the amendment. Given the passage of time, it no longer makes sense to use February 15, 2007 as the reference date for products that will fall under FDA jurisdiction. Among other things, use of this 2007 date would mean newly deemed tobacco products would go back more than 8 years. One may ask, why is any change necessary? And why do we put this in the bill? Congress has designed a system, and if it's left untouched, will leave FDA with a massive backlog of old and new applications for products to stay on the market. This is not a good way for FDA to make a priority of the work that it's doing there and trying to keep things safe for us as they work on a day-to-day basis. Keep in mind that FDA was stripped of all authority to regulate these products. If they were, I would understand Ms. Lowy's argument that there would be a lot of concern about this. The vital authorities included in the Tobacco Control Act that apply to cigarettes and smokeless tobacco will remain in place for any deemed product in the future. Let me repeat that. That vital authorities included in the Tobacco Control Act that apply to cigarettes and smokeless tobacco will remain in place for any deemed product in the future. I've personally talked with the acting commissioner, met with him to confirm that these authorities remain in place, and his staff has provided us with such a confirmation. In the proposed deeming rule, FDA proposed to establish a minimum age and identification restrictions, health warnings, and a prohibiting of vending machines unless in a facility that never admits youth. And this bill does not change that. Here is a way to allow FDA to focus on its original task, require full product review in the future, and keep fundamental safety controls in place for all products. I know that Chairman Rogers, we've discussed this. He's been very interested in this. I know he will discuss that as well. And I know there's a lot of members that I've talked to that are very interested in this. But therefore, I urge my colleagues to oppose the amendment. Thank you.
Mr. Farr?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I rise in support, and I would hope you would too, because in the Lee Amendment, you indicated that you want to stop people who are poisoning and sickening our kids. Tobacco, nicotine is a drug, and that's why there's an addiction to it. And it seems to me that we don't want to micromanage what is already on the books. And as far as creating backlog, remember, the industry has to pay for the costs. The user fee that I talked about when we presented this budget is a tremendous amount of money, income for FDA. What people do is they come with proposals and want their FDA approval, and they've got to pay for those. Prescription drug companies and everything like that. So the tobacco companies that want to put this stuff into additives for food and for products that the children like, the cost would cover that. I don't think the backlog is there. We ought to, I don't know about your state, but California has really took on the task of eliminating smoking and banning it. I think the only place you can do it is in your private home now. And it's really had a tremendous effect, positive effect. And I just think that we don't want to change what we've been able to do at the national level in being able to regulate tobacco and for the purposes indicated. And I would support Mrs. Lowy's amendment.
Chair recognizes himself. Let me affirm that nothing in the underlying bill restricts FDA's ability to regulate and ensure the safety of any tobacco product. Other members of this committee, along with me, that requested this language, fully support FDA's efforts to reduce potentially harmful effects associated with tobacco products and to keep them out of the hands of our kids. This provision in the base bill merely makes a technical change to the Tobacco Control Act relating to the so-called predicate date for newly deemed tobacco products. Bear in mind, these email cigarettes were not in existence back when the Tobacco Control Act became law. The original act required immediate regulation of cigarettes and some other products, and allowed FDA to decide whether or when to regulate other tobacco products. Last year, FDA proposed to bring e-cigarettes, among other products, under its oversight. It's a prudent response, and I encourage FDA to develop safety standards aimed at reducing risks to public health and to focus on protecting our young people. The language in the report that accompanies this bill drives that point home, and I recommend that report language to you. It explains it much better than can I. What does not make sense is the predicate date FDA has selected for these new products. Using the 2000 date means that newly regulated categories of tobacco products, some of which have the potential to play an important role in harm reduction, and some of which hardly existed in commerce before that date, would face a more onerous approval process than cigarettes. When the public health community, while the public health community has not coalesced around this idea, many, including FDA's own Mitch Zeller, have signaled that e-vapor and other non-combustion products have the potential to play an important role in reducing the harms associated with cigarette smoking. So rather than amending FDA's regulatory authority, the committee has made a technical change to ensure that newly deemed products are treated the same way as the Tobacco Control Act treated newly regulated products when the law was enacted. The language in this bill would make the predicate date for newly deemed tobacco products the effective date of the final deeming rule and mimic the 21-month transition period provided for cigarettes, smokeless tobacco, and roll-your-own tobacco. In sum, this provision merely confirms that FDA has the authority to update the predicate date for these new products, which is what FDA should have done at the very beginning. So I urge support for this provision. Ms. Quare.
Personally, I don't smoke, and I feel that e-cigarettes should be regulated, but I want to support this provision, the underlying provision. If I get a clarification, I understand, Mr. Chairman, what you said, but my understanding is that the subcommittee staff received written clarification from the FDA that the deeming provision would not impede their ability to regulate those products. Does anybody have a copy of that written class? Because, I mean, if they're allowed to do it, if it's not impeded, then I just want to see something right. I'm an attorney, and I just want to see something right.
We have an email of it.
Okay. Does anybody have that available that I can take a look at? Because I just want to make sure, I mean, I agree with the ranking woman that they should be regulated. And as long as this provision does not, the deeming provision does not stop FDA from regulating e-cigarettes, then I'll be okay with the underlying. I just want to see that, because apparently I was told that they did send some written.
We're getting that right now.
Thank you.
Dr. Harris.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. You know, to the ranking member, we all take very seriously smoking. You know, in my profession, I will tell you, there's nothing worse for an anesthesiologist than you get a chronic smoker as a patient, I will tell you. So we should absolutely all up front admit that we all want smoking to decrease. But e-cigarettes, is it not really smoking? Because it's not. When we think of smoking, we think of inhaling the combusted products of tobacco, which has several parts. It has particulates, it has gases, it has the tar components, it has things like that. That's not what e-cigarettes have. E-cigarettes have, most of them have nicotine, and then they have some other flavorings added to it. But it's not burning a leaf with the thousands, literally thousands of products of combustion that actually, most of which cause the harm. For instance, if you look at arteriosclerosis, probably the leading problem with smoking. In fact, I was talking to someone yesterday who talked about a friend of theirs and a husband of theirs. Both of them, one had a bypass, the other just had heart surgery from arteriosclerosis. And I asked, well, did both smoke? Oh, yeah, both smoked. Well, that's because those other products cause arteriosclerosis. It's unclear whether nicotine contributes anything to arteriosclerosis. So the real problems with smoking come from actually the smoking of combusted plant products. The only connection e-cigarettes have with tobacco is that the purified nicotine comes from tobacco. That's it, but it's purified. It's just like the only connection digoxin has with the digitalis plant is that it's a purified part of the plant. So it's a purified chemical, and as such, it should be regulated by the FDA. There's no question about it. That's not what the underlying language does. It basically says that the way the FDA deemed it, it said that as of the date of the regulation, the date of the predicate date set back in 2000, any product since then, and that's basically all the e-cigarette products, would have to go through what amounts to a new product review at the FDA. So not accepting that they're out there, they are, I think most people realize they are less dangerous than cigarettes, and yet we're subjecting them to a higher level of regulation. When in fact, and I'm going to close with this, so you don't have to believe me, this is from the Journal of the American Medical Association last year, and it's a viewpoint article from someone from the Department of Public Health at Hopkins, the Bloomberg School of Public Health, Dr. Abrams, entitled The Promise and Peril of E-Cigarettes. Can disruptive technology make cigarettes obsolete? Because what he refers to e-cigarettes as what we call disruptive technology. It is a totally different way of someone inhaling nicotine. A much, you won't say healthy way, much healthier. His conclusion is, and I'm just going to read this, the more appealing e-cigarettes innovations become, and with due respect to the ranking member, actually flavoring makes them appealing to smokers to try to use them for harm reduction, the more likely they will be a disruptive technology. I purely believe that, and the data shows that. The wide acceptance of e-cigarettes, including among former cigarette users. Although the science is insufficient to reach firm conclusions on some issues, e-cigarettes with prudent tobacco control regulations, which the FDA would continue to have, even with this language, do have the potential to make the combusting of tobacco obsolete. I'll just insert here, isn't that what we all want? We want the combusting of tobacco to become obsolete. It says, strong regulatory science research is needed to inform policy. If e-cigarettes represent the new frontier, tobacco control experts must be open to new strategies. Mr. Chairman, if we don't have this underlying language, the e-cigarette business will be gone. Because these manufacturers, there are only a few that can afford the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to bring a new product to market, and we will deprive the ability of individuals to use this as a harm reduction technology. The FDA's regulation authority is not impaired at all. They can choose to not monitor markets, they can choose to not include flavors, they can choose all that, but it will allow these products to remain on the market on equal regulatory footing with the much more dangerous product, cigarettes. I yield back.
Laurel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to quote from an article in the Wall Street Journal, I believe it was yesterday, and this is about the vapor industry. Not everyone in the vapor industry opposes regulation. This is an owner in John Hardigan. The absence of regulation today puts the onus on him to ensure that the liquid nicotine he sells comes from manufacturers blending in controlled environments and doing chemical analysis. The idea that you won't have people out there putting juice together without a chemistry background is a good thing. That is what's happening with these flavorings. You got folks out there mixing chemicals and putting them together who do not have any science-based effort, and that is harmful, particularly harmful to our children. If adults want to do this and ingest or do whatever they do with this, that's fine. Why should we, in fact, allow our children to do the following? In addition to which, my colleague, Mr. Cuellar, asked a question, and as I understand it, Mr. Cuellar, under this Section 747, without pre-market review authority, the FDA could only get lists of ingredients and of, quote, harmful and potentially harmful constituents in products, not product formulas. Companies do not have to submit any information of how their product operates, which is particularly critical for understanding the public health impact of new products such as e-cigarettes. So that is what happens with the FDA. I'm strongly in support of this amendment because this is a harmful rider. Harmful. It exempts e-cigarettes, cigars, other tobacco products currently on the market from important product review requirements. This is about our young people, which we all say we want to try to protect, and we do need to protect them from this. There are tobacco products that remain unregulated, and our young people are using the products at disturbing rates. CDC released good news showing that cigarette use among high school students declined from 2013 to 14 by 9.2%. However, during the same period, e-cigarette use among high school students tripled to 13.4%, making e-cigarettes the most used tobacco product by high school students. Youth still use cigars at obstinately high rates. 8.2% of high school students have smoked a cigar in the last 30 days. We have to drive the rates down. This bill does the opposite. Your grandfather from FDA approval nicotine products already on the market. It weakens the Tobacco Control Act. It undermines FDA's ability to protect the public health. It compromises FDA's ability to protect kids from a wide range of candy and fruit-flavored e-cigarettes and little cigars that have flooded the market in recent years. The rider would allow these products to remain on the market without an independent science-based assessment of their risks to public health. My time has run out, but clearly this is a committee that talks about science-based assessments and the need for that. This removes that opportunity for science-based assessments that can only harm our kids. And I support, and I hope my colleagues will support the amendment.
Ms. McCollum.
Chairman, I've been trying to understand this debate because here again, this language was included in the bill, so it's not an amendment being added to the bill. But it clearly is doing policy on an appropriations bill. And that's why the discussion, and we have the good doctor reading and telling us about medical conditions and other things. So, you know, quite frankly, this needs to come out of the bill, and the Energy and Commerce Committee needs to be having a full, open, transparent debate on this, which doesn't happen when these riders are tucked into bills. Now, my understanding why the date's important is whether the FDA can upfront regulate and decide what might have an impact on public health, or if this date is removed, then the burden's on the FDA to go back and prove why it shouldn't be on, which is more expensive for the taxpayer and puts the public health at greater risk. Now, I'll tell you why I'm concerned about these. I'm concerned about them because of the impact around children. And I care about young teen smoking. I care greatly about that. But I'm concerned about the 4,000 ER visits of children coming in contact with these leftover nicotine receptors that are used to deliver the rush, the feel good about it. And these young children have heard people talk about or see the cute little pictures or the bright little colors of what went in to it. So yes, it's targeting teenagers to make it sound, hey, this is kind of fun and this is an easy thing, and you know, it's like Hawaiian Punch, one of the things. But this one, the gummy bear, says gummy bears on the outside of the liquid tube. Okay, so the liquid containers left over, then you've got the container that was used that delivered the nicotine. These are left around the house. Parents didn't even know. Parents are still learning how dangerous it is to have these leftover products around. Heck, folks, these are toddlers and that are coming in contact with it because we haven't gotten the warning labels out there. So we shouldn't be doing this in an appropriations bill. This is serious stuff. This is kids going to the ER being poisoned, young children starting to experiment with e-cigarettes. When an adult does, I agree with the doctor. If they're forewarned, they're forearmed. But this is a bigger public health problem that we are about, if we don't support the Lowy Amendment, about to make a lot worse. I yield back.
Further discussion? Mr. Chairman? Mr. Simpson? Chairman Simpson?
I would yield to my time to the gentleman from Alabama.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson, for the yielding the time. Let me just address that we have conferred with the Commerce and Energy Committee, and they are supportive of this language. Thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing Mrs. Wasserman Schultz. State your inquiry.
We discussed with the majority. Not minority.
That's why you're in the majority.
Further discussion, Mrs. Wasserman Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in support of the amendment because I'm not really sure why we would want more people to get addicted to nicotine. I mean, that can only lead to more tobacco usage, not less. And frankly, when you have the kinds of flavors that are marketed in these products, they are only doing that marketing for one reason. That is to lure more young people towards the idea that smoking is cool, that smoking is fun, that consuming a potentially harmful product is a positive and good thing to do. What hasn't been mentioned, Mr. Chairman, is that there's also some pretty significant danger to using these products. And I think every member has these pictures of explosions that have taken place from the use of e-cigarettes with pretty horrific burns, house fires, abrasions. It's clear that more research needs to be done. And, Dr. Harris, I have to tell you, and Mr. Chairman, I'll do this through you. You and I have agreed on many issues like this one throughout our discussions on issues like this. And it's a little troubling to me that you would not be supportive of this amendment, because all that this amendment does is make sure that we still will have the ability to have a pre-market review of products that the jury is still out on. We want to make sure before they are fully authorized to be marketed commercially that there is a pre-market review, because if we don't have one, then you have to actually try to get them off the market, which is far more challenging than allowing them to have a full-on authority to remain on the market commercially.
Mr. Chairman, would the gentlelady yield just for a second?
Sure. Be happy to yield.
I agree that regulation is needed. There's no question about it. The question is, do we harm, as Dr. Abrams said in this article, do we harm the ability of this disruptive technology to be able to replace combusted cigarettes because we kill the industry with this because of the pre-marketing requirement?
In reclaiming my time, I will say there is no harm in having a pre-market review. The harm, you're not going to kill the industry, and there's no one that could actually show you any data that would say that this industry would go down if you have this cohort of products that is essentially being grandfathered in, which means you're going to basically look the other way and say, we're going to ignore whether this group of products is harmful or not. That's not going to bring down the whole industry, but it will be much more difficult to get them off the market if you don't have that pre-market review. And lastly, Mr. Chairman, before I sit down, I want to point out, from the year 2011 to the year 2015, there were 1,732 cases of poisoning from liquid nicotine reported by the American Association of Poison Control Centers. And from January of this year to June of this year, there were 1,732 cases of poisonings, including child deaths. A pre-market review is absolutely essential. I urge the members' support of the amendment.
Further discussion? Mr. Cuellar.
Again, I just got a copy of what I understand is from...
Suspend. The gentleman is speaking for the second time.
That's correct.
Do you ask unanimous consent to speak for a second time?
I would ask for unanimous consent just for a brief moment.
Brief moment.
Yes, sir. Again, I do support the chairwoman. I do want to see the e-cigarettes regulated, but my understanding is that the FDA did send over a response saying that under Section 906 of the FTC Act, they still have the authority to set restrictions to the sale and distribution of tobacco products that are appropriate for the protection of public health under Section 907 of the FTC Act, to develop product standards that are appropriate for the protection, and they both apply for the grandfather and new products. So again, I do agree respectfully with the ranking woman. I do want to see e-cigarettes. My understanding is from the FDA, this is what the FDA has sent over, and I'll be happy to share this. I'm sure that the folks will share this with the rest of the members.
Mr. Chairman, I will certainly follow up on your comments, but it's my understanding that what you are saying is the FDA has the authority after the product has gone to market. Isn't that correct?
My understanding is it applies to both grandfather and new products, and they have the authority to set restrictions on the sale and distribution of tobacco products and other products.
However, let's think, I know I'm going to close, but just in response to my good colleague, they have the authority after the product is on the market. And what my point is, that they should have the authority to evaluate a product, especially a tobacco product, before it goes to the market. And certainly my good friend Dr. Harris, with whom I've had many thoughtful conversations, wants to study marijuana. Why wouldn't he want to study the impact of these products before they're available and readily accessible to your kids, my grandkids? And when you see the statistics and the number of people, Dr. Harris, who are buying these products online, a 13-year-old can come to the door and accept that product, and no one has to show any identification. So all I am saying, and I know I will have opportunity to close, just to correct that, and I can read the statement from the FDA, which I just lost. Okay, okay, I'll do it later.
Gentleman's
Thank
time has
you.
expired. Ms. Capter.
Thank you very much, Ms. Capter, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, and my colleagues. I just think it's important to note, and this is not information that doesn't have any citation. This is U.S. Fire Administration, Electronic Cigarette Fires and Explosions, last October from FEMA. It says, the shape and construction of e-cigarettes can make them more likely than any other products with lithium-ion batteries to behave like flaming rockets when a battery fails. These are the products that we are speaking about. Where is there any sense of regulation of all of this? It just isn't there at the moment. U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission has advised that e-cigarettes do not fall under its jurisdiction. No regulation code or law applies to the safety of the electronics or batteries in e-cigarettes. There are no requirements that e-cigarettes be subjected to product safety testing. As a result of the battery and container failure, one or the other or both can be propelled across the room like a bullet or a small rocket. Do we not believe that there are health and safety issues surrounding these new products, and that this is a committee and a jurisdiction that should be looking into this and dealing with regulatory measures? We don't produce the product, but we certainly have a responsibility to make sure that we're dealing with a safe product and one that doesn't either work to impede the health of young people and to put their safety at risk with these kinds of products. I mean, how do we abdicate that kind of a responsibility when we have the jurisdiction and the power to be able to do it? It seems to be a total abdication of responsibility, and I cannot imagine that well-meaning, good people on both sides of the aisle in this committee don't want to look to protecting young people in terms of their health and their safety, no matter what the product is. And where it emanates from. That really is why we're sent here, to deal with these kinds of accountability measures. Again, we don't produce these products, we don't make them, but our obligation is to make sure that they are safe for people, both young people and older people, but adults can make a decision as to what they want to do. Kids shouldn't have that kind of power to do that. We need to take on that power. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, my colleague.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Lowy is recognized to close.
As I close, Dr. Harris, I would just like to read you comments about Section 747 about the House Ag FDA Appropriations Bill. Section 747 would make a fundamental change in how the Tobacco Control Act will apply to tobacco products that FDA does not currently regulate, such as e-cigarette and cigars. Specifically, Section 747 would exempt e-cigarettes, cigars, and other tobacco products that are currently on the market but not yet regulated by FDA from the product review requirements in Sections 905 and 910 of the Tobacco Control Act. Manufacturers would be able to keep these products on the market without an independent science-based assessment of their risk to public health by FDA. Congress gave FDA the authority to review new tobacco products in the Tobacco Control Act because it recognized the harm that new products can cause. When cigarette companies were free to introduce new products without prior review by FDA, cigarettes became the more addictive and steadily over time. I would just like to say, if I may, as unanimous consent for another minute, I think your remarks are very thoughtful, and I know they are deep felt, and that's why it is absolutely essential in this case that we're not legislating on an appropriations bill. And in reading through some of the paperwork, I take serious issue with the fact that the report paraphrases statements submitted by R.J. Reynolds. Just last year, if I may take one more minute to close, Mr. Chair, half a minute.
Guys, for 30 seconds.
Okay. The rate of calls to poison control centers related to e-cigarette chemicals rose from one report in 2010 to 215 in 2014. We have a serious public health problem that needs to be addressed, not dismissed. The report references the safe use of these products, though scientific evidence and common sense tells us that tobacco products are not safe. It's up to the FDA. We can keep debating this, but the FDA should decide what tobacco products should be on the market. Let the scientists do their job.
Question is on the Lowy amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. No. The noes have it. The amendment's not agreed to. Roll call is requested. A sufficient number supporting. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Adderholt. No. Mr. Adderholt, no. Mr. Amadei. Mr. Amadei, no. Mr. Bishop. No. Mr. Bishop, no. Mr. Calvert. Mr. Calvert, no. Mr. Carter? No. Mr. Carter, no. Mr. Cole? No. Mr. Cole, no. Mr. Crenshaw? No. Mr. Crenshaw, no. Mr. Cuellar? Mr. Cuellar, no. Mr. Culberson? Ms. DeLauro? Ms. DeLauro, aye. Mr. Dent? Mr. Dent, no. Mr. Diaz-Balart? No. Mr. Diaz-Balart, no. Mr. Farr? Aye. Mr. Farr, aye. Mr. Fatah? Mr. Fatah, aye. Mr. Fleischman? Mr. Fleischman, no. Mr. Fortenberry? Mr. Fortenberry, no. Mr. Frelinghuysen? Mr. Frelinghuysen, no. Ms. Granger? Ms. Granger, no. Mr. Graves? Mr. Graves, no. Dr. Harris? Dr. Harris, no. Ms. Hura Butler? Ms. Hura Butler, aye. Mr. Honda? Mr. Honda, aye. Mr. Israel? Aye. Mr. Israel, aye. Mr. Jenkins? Mr. Jenkins, aye. Mr. Jolly? Mr. Jolly, no. Mr. Joyce? Ms. Capter? Aye. Ms. Capter, aye. Mr. Kilmer? Aye. Mr. Kilmer, aye. Ms. Lee? Aye. Ms. Lee, aye. Mrs. Lowy?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowy, aye. Ms. McCullum? Ms. McCullum, aye. Mr. Palazzo? Mr. Palazzo, no. Ms. Pingree? Aye. Ms. Pingree, aye. Mr. Price? Mr. Price, aye. Mr. Quigley? Mr. Quigley, aye. Mr. Ridgel? Mr. Ridgel, no. Mrs. Roby? Aye. Mrs. Roby, no. Mr. Rogers? Mr. Rogers, no. Mr. Rooney? Mr. Rooney, no. Ms. Robo-Allard? Ms. Robo-Allard, aye. Mr. Ruppersberger? Mr. Ruppersberger, aye. Mr. Ryan? Mr. Ryan, aye. Mr. Serrano? Mr. Serrano, aye. Mr. Simpson. Mr. Simpson, no. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stewart, aye. Mr. Valadeo. Mr. Valadeo, no. Mr. Visklosky. Mr. Visklosky, aye. Ms. Wasserman Schultz. Ms. Wasserman Schultz, aye. Mr. Womack. Mr. Womack, no. Mr. Yoder. Mr. Yoder, no. Mr. Young. Mr. Young, no.
Members wishing to record their vote or change their vote? Mr. Cuellar? I'm sorry.
Mr. Cuellar, aye.
Further changes? Clerk will tally. On this amendment, the yeas are 23, the nays are 26. The amendment is not agreed to. Ms. Pingree.
Desk.
Clerk will read.
Amendment offered by Ms. Pingree at the end of the bill.
Consent to not read the amendment.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to bring us back to the farming side of the appropriations bill. Take a little break on public health and nutrition. But first I want to thank Chairman Adderholt and Ranking Member Farr for their hard work on the bill and thoughtful consideration of so many important programs. I feel fortunate to serve on this subcommittee and have worked through a lot of issues with them in the process of doing this and in the process of putting together the manager's amendment, and I'm very grateful for the dialogue we've been able to have. But I have an amendment on crop insurance, and I think it's something that puts a little more fiscal responsibility back in some of the things that we do. This amendment would block taxpayer dollars from paying for crop insurance premium subsidies for individuals with an adjusted gross income over $750,000. So just to think about that number, $750,000, I don't know, you all have different kinds of farming going on in your part of the country, but I can promise you there aren't too many farmers in Maine clearing $750,000 this year. According to the GAO, this proposal would affect fewer than 1% of farmers across the country. These are not the family farms we're talking about. Generally, they're big corporations. Are we really going to want to debate whether or not to spend hard-earned taxpayers' dollars on a giveaway to the top 1% of the farmers in our country? My amendment would bring the federal crop insurance program more in line with the rest of the USDA programs. In fact, crop insurance is the only federal farm income support program that doesn't employ any payment limitations for high-income earners. And the potential for savings is significant. In 2011, the top 1% most profitable farm businesses collected an average of $220,000 each in crop insurance premium subsidies. The savings from this common sense amendment would go towards restoring funding to the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, which is known as EQIP, which was cut by $300 million in this bill and is a great disappointment to many farmers in my state and around the country. That cut is a great disappointment. EQIP is a voluntary conservation program that provides farmers and ranchers with cost share and technical assistance to help them implement conservation practices on working farmland. In Maine, one way that EQIP has been used is to construct hoop houses that extend the growing season, and that's been done also around the country, and it can make a big difference between a good year and a tough year financially in what a farmer is able to grow. The amendment doesn't cost anything. It simply rebalances priorities towards farmers doing good work on the ground and takes some of the money away from those farmers who simply do not need federal help to purchase crop insurance. I think it's a question of priorities, and the choice is clear. On the one side, we are subsidizing 1% of the farms who will probably be just fine without our taxpayer dollars, and on the other, the average farmer who is struggling to make a living and pay the bills and could use the assistance moved in their direction. I hope you will consider this amendment and vote yes.
Chairman Adderholt.
Mr. Chairman, I rise to oppose the amendment. This amendment would reopen the farm bill that was debated just last year, Not only did the Farm Bill already include payment limits on farm programs regardless of what a farmer makes, but it set a limit on the adjusted gross income for farmers. Adopting this amendment would override Congress and the Farm Bill that was decided last year, and this is not a place for renegotiating an already negotiated provision. The crop insurance program as it stands is actuarially sound. Reducing AGI would increase premiums even more by reducing the number of participants in the program. Again, this would not be the time or the place for us to debate this. The amendment does not work because it would change aspects of participating producers' contracts after they've already signed the contracts. So I'd urge my colleagues to oppose this amendment.
Who seeks recognition? Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to rise in support of this amendment. I think if we're talking about long-term restructuring, if we're talking about saving money, if we're talking about not subsidizing farms that are already making a lot of money, and driving that money back into programs that are going to lead to local, fresh, healthy food that can bring down our health care costs in the long term, and not continuing to subsidize at very high levels crops that make their way into the highly processed food that is artificially cheap, does not reflect the actual cost, drives up health care, and we subsidize that, and we wonder why we can't balance the budget. These are simple approaches, and I want to thank the gentlelady from Maine for being a leader on this issue. And this is the direction we have to move in. I want to support this amendment and just thank her for her leadership, and thank the chairman for his time.
Mr. Bishop.
Mr. Chairman, I rise to reluctantly oppose this amendment. Insurance is designed to protect against risk, and high-income producers are larger producers, so they have more at risk. And it would just seem to be logical that if you have more at risk, you would need to have more insurance. And I think that as the chair, Mr. Adderholt, has pointed out, it's actuarially sound. I think that larger producers have more input, have more expenses, and have much more at risk, and they ought to have the same protection in proportion to the risk that they are assuring against. And so I reluctantly oppose this amendment.
Ms. Pingree may close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. While I appreciate again that we all represent different kinds of farmers and farming, I think that most of you have been able to observe that across the country, there's an amazing change going on there. Small farmers encounter markets in their home communities and places where we never expect farming to come back, and that's certainly been an important factor in my state. And one of my concerns is that when we design the Farm Bill and maybe decide how to appropriate the funding, we system opportunities out there for farmers. All too often, we keep giving it back to the farmers and the farms, frankly, just don't need our taxpayer dollars anymore. This amendment would be a great way to take some of those funds and put them back into programs that farmers could really use in a time when there are great opportunities out there that will be
The question is on the Pingree amendment. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. No. No seem to have it. The amendment is not agreed to. Are there other amendments? Mr. Farr.
Chairman, I have amendment number 2.
Clerk will read.
Amendment offered by Mr. Farr.
Without objection, the reading is dispensed with.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A little background. When the argument for the National Health Care Bill was made in Congress, it was brought to our attention that our eating habits in America are causing an awful lot of our health risks. And we put a lot of attention into trying to change that. If you're going to really cut down the costs of health care in America, we've got to grow healthier Americans. And this is the committee that it's responsible for growing healthier Americans, because we regulate the food that's grown and the food that's served through the FDA. To do that, we created in law, a Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee to the to HH and convened by the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Health and Human Services. The purpose was to develop diet and health recommendations for America based on updated sciences. The last guidelines were released in 2010, and the new committee, same responsibility, is now releasing their guidelines for this year. Now, what this bill has is about 50 words. It's a long statement of putting conditionality on that committee and its guidelines, and essentially undercutting the ability of the committee just to make good dietary guidelines. It ends up creating evidentiary standards that have never been used before. It requires a science level, a section level that has never been used before, and it really undercuts the purpose of the committee, and it also affects the ability for the committee to consider public comment. So they're not allowing, once these guidelines are released, for public comment, and it says that they can't consider anything to the contrary. So my language just deletes this section. It's really a lot of micromanaging, putting standards in there that are not necessary and frankly are harmful. It doesn't allow the committee, for example, to suggest that maybe physical activity, which we know is part of dietary guidelines, is also a physical guidelines, is how to go out and exercise once in a while. And do we want to really stop that as a recommendation that to stay healthy in America, we have to do that? So by imposing new public comment periods on what has already been a very fulsome comment process, that the guidelines can't be issued in the calendar year 2015 as required by law, it really is using a chainsaw when a scalpel is necessary, and I ask for an aye vote to remove these conditionalities that are unnecessary.
Chairman Adderholt.
I rise in opposition to the amendment. This amendment was brought up during the Labor HHS markup that we had here in this very room. It was soundly defeated. My colleagues have mentioned to me the need to protect the scientific integrity of the dietary guidelines, and that's exactly the intent of this provision that we've included in the bill, to ensure that the guidelines are based on strong science. I continue to hear numerous concerns and comments about the recommendations made by the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee. Several former members of the 2010 Dietary Guideline Advisory Committee has raised concerns about the dietary guidelines process and the importance of protecting scientific integrity of the guidelines. USDA and Health and Human Services are not held accountable as to whether or not they consider public comments. This bill necessitates transparency and accountability by requiring USDA and Health and Human Services to follow the law, use strong scientific evidence, and allow for public input. So therefore, with that, I would urge my colleagues to oppose this amendment.
Mr. Laurel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in support of the amendment. Our nation at the moment is in the midst of dual epidemics of obesity and of type 2 diabetes, and a healthful diet and regular exercise are two keys to changing the tide. We need the dietary guidelines for Americans to reflect the most recent scientific evidence on addressing these problems. HHS and USDA ensure this by appointing an advisory committee of nationally recognized experts in the field of nutrition and health to review the scientific and medical evidence available and to develop dietary guidelines. Sadly, it seems the committee is trying to look at the interests of industry before public health and before the interests of families and children. The rider blocks HHS and USDA from releasing or implementing the 8th edition of the Dietary Guidelines for Americans. This leaves the dietary guidelines frozen in time, regardless of what evolving science supports. For example, it would prevent any updates to the 2010 recommendations regarding physical activity. The science has moved on since then, and the guidelines should reflect that progress. By blocking updates jeopardize the health of American families. The committee has already weighed in, the Dietary Guidelines Committee has weighed in with science and evidence-based recommendations regarding what should be included in these guidelines. That's their job. And I won't go through reading the list of people, but in this listing, we're looking at people, and when I hear that this is not, this calls into question science-based, every single member of this advisory committee is either a doctor of science, PhD in science and research. We go down the list of folks who have an extraordinary background in science and in research, and who are very competent to address this problem. As I said, it's their job. The guidelines process has worked well for more than 20 years. 50 public health and nutrition organizations and experts have sent a letter conveying their, quote, shared alarm about the rider, which would, in their words, limit the committee's expert-informed judgment. There isn't a need to break what's working well through congressional interference. We need to remain committed to ending preventable chronic diseases and obesity. We should not allow politics to trump America's health by disregarding sound science. It would be a disservice. I urge my colleagues to support this amendment and let the process move forward. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is there, Mr.
Ryan.
Ryan?
Thank you, sir. I was just about to say I really don't speak a lot in this committee, and maybe I should do a little bit more of it. I don't really speak a lot in this committee, but these issues that are being brought up today, I think, are so critical. And I do think that this committee, this subcommittee, can provide leadership on this issue. And this is what this ultimately comes down to. We've got to be leaders on this issue. This is a major national security issue. It's a major economic issue for us. It's a major health issue for us. And at the end of the day, we are the leaders of the country. Our folks elect us to come here and lead and to shut down information that could potentially be very helpful to the health and well-being of the people in our communities. They're not going to be entrepreneurs or innovators or be able to sit in a classroom and think clearly if we don't get good food to these kids and we don't start shifting the culture. This is a critical issue in so many different ways, and again, I want to thank the gentleman for his leadership on this, and Ms. DeLauro, Ms. Pingree, and others. These are important issues, and I know we probably won't win the vote on this one, probably go in the same direction as some of the last other few votes. But at the end of the day, I hope we can start looking at this issue differently. And I see some members of this committee down in the gym working out, concerned about health. I won't say who's not down there, but I do see some that are down there. And I think it is important for us to not only say you got to work out, you got to exercise, but we got to shift the food system. And we may not win the day today, but I hope this opens up a broader conversation for us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Mr. Farr is recognized to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Look, these recommendations in this bill, what they've put the language in there is not coming from science, not coming from people that are worried about your health. They're coming from special interests. I mean, the language is pretty harsh. Unless the Secretary of Agriculture and the Secretary of Health and Human Services comply with each of the following requirements, each revision to any nutritional or dietary information or guideline contained in the 2010 edition of the Dietary Guidelines for Americans, and any new nutritional or dietary information or guidelines to be included in the 8th edition of the Dietary Guidelines shall be based on scientific evidence that has been ruled grade 1 strong by the grading rubric developed by the Nutritional Evidence Library of the Department of Agriculture, and shall be limited in scope to only matters of diet and intake, nutritional intake, nothing about the well-being of a person. Look, these are guidelines. Why are we even so panicked about guidelines? It's the industry that these guidelines are going to affect that are worried about it, and that's why they want this language in here. Let's keep America healthy and support this amendment.
Question is on the Farr amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. No. No seem to have it. The amendment is not agreed to. Request for a recorded vote is granted. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Adderholt? No. Mr. Adderholt, no. Mr. Amodei? Mr. Amodei, no. Mr. Bishop? Mr. Bishop, aye. Mr. Calvert? Mr. Calvert, no. Mr. Carter? Mr. Cole? Mr. Cole, no. Mr. Crenshaw? Mr. Crenshaw, no. Mr. Cuellar? Mr. Cuellar? Mr. Cuellar, no. Mr. Culberson? Ms. DeLauro? Ms. DeLauro, aye. Mr. Dent? Mr. Dent, no. Mr. Diaz-Balart? Mr. Diaz-Balart, no. Mr. Farr? Mr. Farr, aye. Mr. Fatah? Mr. Fatah, aye. Mr. Fleischman? Mr. Fleischman, no. Mr. Fortenberry? Mr. Fortenberry, no. Mr. Frelinghuysen? Mr. Frelinghuysen? Mr. Frelinghuysen, no. Ms. Granger? Ms. Granger, no. Mr. Graves? Mr. Graves, no. Dr. Harris? Dr. Harris, no. Ms. Hura Butler? Ms. Hura Butler, no. Mr. Honda? Mr. Honda, aye. Mr. Israel? Mr. Israel, aye. Mr. Jenkins? Mr. Jenkins, no. Mr. Jolly? Mr. Jolly, no. Mr. Joyce? Mr. Joyce, no. Ms. Capter? Mr. Kilmer? Mr. Kilmer, aye. Ms. Lee? Ms. Lee, aye. Mrs. Lowy?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowy, aye. Ms. McCullum? Ms. McCullum, aye. Mr. Palazzo? Mr. Palazzo, no. Ms. Pingree? Ms. Pingree? Ms. Pingree, aye. Mr. Price? Mr. Price, aye. Mr. Quigley? Mr. Quigley, aye. Mr. Ridgel? Mr. Ridgel, no. Mrs. Roby? Mrs. Roby, no. Mr. Rogers? Mr. Rogers, no. Mr. Rooney? Mr. Rooney, no. Ms. Roba Allard? Ms. Roba Allard, aye. Mr. Ruppersberger? Mr. Ruppersberger, aye. Mr. Ryan? Mr. Ryan, aye. Mr. Serrano? Mr. Serrano, aye. Mr. Simpson? Mr. Simpson, no. Mr. Stewart? Mr. Stewart, no. Mr. Valadeo? Mr. Valadeo, no. Mr. Visklosky? Aye. Mr. Visklosky, aye. Ms. Wasserman Schultz? Ms. Wasserman Schultz, aye. Mr. Womack? Mr. Womack, no. Mr. Yoder? Mr. Yoder, no. Mr. Young? Mr. Young, no.
Members who wish to be recorded or to change their vote, clerk will tally. On this vote, the yeas are 19, nays are 29. The amendment's not agreed to. Mr. Quigley?
Mr. Chairman, we have an amendment at the desk.
Clerk will read.
I ask that the reading be dispensed with.
Without objection.
Mr. Chairman, during every disaster or catastrophe in this country, there are blood shortages. Every summer, blood donations dwindle across this country, putting us at risk for a blood shortage. Blood donations save people's lives, whether it was a blood transfusion during routine surgery or in response to a catastrophic accident. But when hospitals don't have enough blood products, lives are at risk. My amendment would help the FDA take action to increase blood donations and promote a safe blood supply. The FDA's blood donor deferral policies are outdated and discriminatory, failing to take into account individual risk. In fact, Mr. Chairman, HHS has said that these policies are, quote, when you donate blood, you're required to fill out a questionnaire so the blood bank attendant can determine if you are eligible to donate. But in its current form, the donor questionnaire doesn't ask questions about activities that put a donor at risk for blood-borne illness. Instead, they ask questions about a donor's identity, implying that somehow people with certain traits and characteristics are inherently risky donors. With improved screening, a person's sexual orientation, for example, does not make him an inherently risky donor. The FDA desperately needs to update its donor questionnaire to allow more safe donors and weed out people with risky behaviors. My amendment would include report language that directs the FDA to work with the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute. Together, these agencies should formulate and study adequate questions that are cognitively appropriate and will maintain a safe donor pool without discriminating against any Americans. This is also the blood banks and the American Red Cross agree that this is a suboptimal policy. A vote in favor of my amendment will improve our nation's blood supply to respond to health needs and possible emergency situations. I urge you to support it.
Chairman Adderholt.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Rising in opposition to the amendment. Over the past several years, FDA has carefully examined the scientific evidence to its blood supply referral policy. In May, the FDA revised its recommendations and issued draft guidance for the industry. They have been taking public comment and demonstrated they're moving forward on this issue. We should allow FDA to continue in the process, and I would urge my colleagues to oppose the amendment.
Are there members wishing to be heard? Mr. Quigley, you may close.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan said we don't really expect victories here on our amendments. In fact, I think we're getting used to going down in a blazing ball of martyrdom. And if I expected victories every time, I certainly wouldn't be a Cub fan. However, we need to consider this, ladies and gentlemen. Believe it or not, we began looking at this with Senator Kerry 7 years ago. So with blinding, raging speed, the FDA and HHS are racing toward a solution to this problem. But in the meantime, I would respectfully remind everyone, they admit this isn't an optimal policy, right? A gay man is given a lifetime ban despite having a long-term, lifetime relationship with someone. But a heterosexual man of the same questionnaire who has unsafe sex with multiple partners is allowed to donate. So you're not as safe as you think you are now, and you aren't as at risk with a change as a policy as you think you might be. So HHS understands this isn't the right thing to do. They're moving at an extraordinary snail's pace to solve this problem. We're only encouraging them to work with this institute to move forward.
Question is on the Quigley amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. No. No seem to have it. The amendment's not agreed to. Ms. Lowy?
I have an amendment at the desk.
Clerk will read.
Amendment offered by Mrs. Lowy.
Without objection, reading is dispensed with.
My colleagues, we know that healthy meals help children be better students, leading more productive lives. More than 21 million children rely on free or reduced price meals on a given school day, but only 3.7 million children receive meals when school is not in session. That means that over 80% of kids who rely on school meals are threatened with hunger over the summer. And for many, it makes July and August the hungriest months of the year. The Summer Electronic Benefit Transfer, or Summer EBT program, is proving to be a vital resource to fill this void by helping families purchase healthy food for low-income children when school is out. The Department of Agriculture realized its promise and proposed to strengthen the initiative, but unfortunately, this bill not only closes the door on strengthening the program, it would slash funding by 25%. My amendment would help up to 200,000 children have healthy meals during the summer months by funding the summer EBT demonstration program at the President's request of $67 million. Let's invest in healthy kids, and I hope all my colleagues understand on both sides of the aisle that really is a compromise, because when you think of the millions of children who are not getting lunch programs in the summer, this would only help 200,000 kids. So let's invest in healthy kids. I urge support of my amendment.
Chairman Adderholt.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, got to oppose the amendment. Of course, obviously, one of the main things it does is not have an offset. Obviously, we support the summer EBT pilot program, as the bill already includes $12 million for the program. It also provides full funding of $536 million for the traditional summer food service program, which is estimated to provide more than 177 million meals. During our subcommittee markup, some of the members of the subcommittee implied without more funding that the summer EBT, that we had cut the summer feeding program. Nothing could be further from the truth. The summer EBT is a pilot program that has been operating for 5 years. The amendment offers no offset, as I mentioned, and given that the bill already provides funding for the program, I would encourage my colleagues to oppose the amendment.
Is there further discussion? Gentlelady is recognized to close.
Children who rely on free and reduced price meals during the school year should not have to go hungry when school is out. The summer EBD program is a worthy federal investment that will feed hungry kids and pay dividends down the road. We should be investing in it today. And my colleagues, I know many of us visit food banks, visit schools, and we understand that there is a shortage of programs that are feeding kids in the summer. And I do hope, Mr. Chairman, that we can work as this bill moves through the process to provide additional funding so these kids don't have to go hungry. Many of our food banks are giving them backpacks to take home over the weekend, and there are other ways to feed these kids, but this is so basic. I hope we can work together as the bill moves forward. And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Question is on the Lowy amendment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. No. The noes seem to have it. The noes have it. The amendment's not agreed to. Mr. Laurel. Recorded vote is requested. A sufficient number supporting. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Adderholt? No. Mr. Adderholt, no. Mr. Amadei? Mr. Amadei, no. Mr. Bishop? Mr. Bishop, aye. Mr. Calvert? Mr. Calvert? Mr. Calvert, no. Mr. Carter? Mr. Carter? Mr. Carter, no. Mr. Carter, no. Mr. Cole? Mr. Cole, no. Mr. Crenshaw? Mr. Crenshaw, no. Mr. Cuellar? Mr. Cuellar, aye. Mr. Culberson? Ms. DeLauro? Ms. DeLauro, aye. Mr. Dent? Mr. Dent, no. Mr. Diaz-Balart? Mr. Diaz-Balart, no. Mr. Farr? Mr. Farr, aye. Mr. Fatah? Mr. Fatah, aye. Mr. Fleischman? Mr. Fleischman, no. Mr. Fortenberry? Mr. Fortenberry, no. Mr. Frelinghuysen? Mr. Frelinghuysen, no. Ms. Granger? Ms. Granger, no. Mr. Graves? Mr. Graves, no. Dr. Harris? Dr. Harris, no. Ms. Hera Butler? Ms. Hera Butler, no. Mr. Honda? Mr. Honda, aye. Mr. Israel? Mr. Israel, aye. Mr. Jenkins? Mr. Jenkins, no. Mr. Jolly? Mr. Jolly, no. Mr. Joyce? Mr. Joyce, no. Ms. Capter? Ms. Capter, aye. Mr. Kilmer? Mr. Kilmer, aye. Ms. Lee? Mrs. Lowy?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowy, aye. Ms. McCollum? Ms. McCollum, aye. Mr. Palazzo? Mr. Palazzo, no. Ms. Pingree? Ms. Pingree, aye. Mr. Price? Mr. Price, aye. Mr. Quigley? Mr. Quigley, aye. Mr. Ridgel? Mr. Ridgel, no. Mrs. Roby? Mrs. Roby, no. Mr. Rogers? Mr. Rogers, no. Mr. Rooney? Mr. Rooney, no. Ms. Robo-Allard? Ms. Robo-Allard, aye. Mr. Ruppersberger? Mr. Ruppersberger, aye. Mr. Ryan? Mr. Ryan, aye. Mr. Serrano? Mr. Serrano, aye. Mr. Simpson? Mr. Simpson, no. Mr. Stewart? Mr. Stewart, no. Mr. Valadeo? Mr. Valadeo, no. Mr. Visklosky? Mr. Visklosky, aye. Ms. Wasserman-Schultz? Ms. Wasserman-Schultz, aye. Mr. Womack? Mr. Womack, no. Mr. Yoder? Mr. Yoder, no. Mr. Young? Mr. Young, no.
Other members who wish to be recorded? Ms. Lee?
Ms. Lee, aye.
Or to change their vote? Clerk will tally. Chair notes that there are scheduled votes at 1:30 on the floor, several. So we've got 4 or 5 remaining amendments if they're offered. So if we could be brief, we can finish before we have to go vote. We've got to do 302Bs after this bill. On this vote, the yeas are 21, the nays are 29. Amendment's not agreed to. Mr. Laurel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have an amendment in your desk. It's amendment number 2, and I ask unanimous consent to dispense with the reading.
Without objection.
Today, the federal government's crop insurance program costs taxpayers $9 billion a year. Unlike other farm subsidies, crop insurance subsidies are not subject to means testing or payment limits, which is why I'm introducing an amendment to promote transparency by removing the current prohibition on public disclosure of crop insurance subsidy beneficiary information through the Department of Agriculture's salaries and expenses. The crop insurance program indirectly subsidizes, on average, 62% of farmers' crop insurance premiums, reimburses insurance companies for administrative and operating costs, adjusts premiums in order to produce a 14% return for crop insurance companies, and takes the riskiest crop insurance policies off the company's books. It really is outrageous for the federal government to continue to spend so lavishly on a program that sends 3/4 of federal subsidies to just 20% of farmers. The crop insurance program is a necessary risk management tool for producers, but the program is in need of desperate reform. Taxpayers deserve to know how their tax dollars are going. Conservation programs, direct payments, and other commodity programs require the disclosure of the beneficiaries of these programs. In direct contrast, the crop insurance program prohibits the disclosure of individuals or corporations that receive this taxpayer-funded subsidy, ultimately leaving taxpayers in the dark. Because the crop insurance program is not means-tested or capped, the GAO found that 26 beneficiaries, producers, received $1 million or more in premium subsidies in 2011 alone. An analysis done by the Environmental Working Group in November 2013 found that at least 50 billionaires received $11.3 million in taxpayer-funded subsidies between 1995 and 2012. Earlier that year, federal investigators uncovered the largest case of crop insurance fraud in history, a massive scheme among dozens of insurance agents, claims adjusters, brokers, and farmers to steal at least $100 million from the government. Crop insurance fraud is not uncommon. Unfortunately, the degree to which waste and abuse occurs in the program is not well documented. In 2008, we worked hard to ensure that the Farm Bill was a safety net for American farmers and people struggling to make ends meet. Since that time, we have cut deeply into the safety net for Americans living in poverty, and while at the same time continuing to give millions of dollars in crop insurance handouts. Congress continues to comb minutely through every small error in the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, while doing little to tackle fraud, waste, and abuse in the crop insurance program. We need to redress the balance. We can start to do that by shedding light on who is truly benefiting from this vast program, and I urge my colleagues to support my amendment, which would create the transparency that we need.
Chairman Adderholt.
Rising to oppose the amendment. Amendment would add an unneeded burden to USDA by requiring the disclosure of personal and sensitive information. The amendment would require personal information to be disclosed by the government for only a small sector of the U.S. population without reasonable justification. I think it should be kept in mind that other government programs, including our nutrition assistance, conservation, or energy assistance programs, do not require this. This unfairly targets a hardworking sector of the U.S. economy and opens the door to potential targeting of personal data and possibly identity theft. This data already released by the USDA in aggregate amounts and individual disclosure is unnecessary, poses personal security risk, and is burdensome to the USDA, and I would urge my colleagues to oppose the amendment.
Does Mr. Ryan want to speak on this? I'm trying to make up to you. Take a minute. The gentleman said earlier that he knew a lot of people in the gym. Maybe that's the reason I didn't remember your name. And I apologize to you. Any further discussion? Gentlelady is recognized to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will just repeat, unlike other farm subsidies, crop insurance subsidies are not subject to means testing or payment limits. The amendment does bring greater transparency to federal crop insurance subsidies, ensuring the largest farm safety net is accountable to taxpayers and fair for farmers. The USDA's Inspector General's audit released in April of 2014 estimated that the crop insurance program's error rate for improper payments was at least 5.23% in 2013, and it could be higher. Significant increase from the 2012 error rate of 4%. As the taxpayer cost of federal crop, I might also add that I did check on what the SNAP error rate is, and that's about 3.6%. And my, do we take so much time to look at who is getting supplemental assistance or food assistance, but we truly don't have any, and that's a means-tested program. It's capped. There are asset limitations, unlike crop insurance subsidies. Taxpayer cost of federal crop insurance grows, and it grows, and it grows. It's important that the public knows who benefits from this program, and I urge my colleagues to support the amendment.
Question is on the DeLauro amendment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The noes seem to have it. The amendment's not agreed to. Dr. Harris.
I have an amendment at the desk.
Clerk will read.
It's designated by Mr. Harris, but it's the only one. And I ask unanimous consent to dispense with the reading.
Without objection.
The FDA has issued a final determination that partially hydrogenated oils, or what are called PHOs, which are the artificially made trans fats as opposed to the ones that occur in nature, are no longer generally recognized as safe. It's called a Gras determination. As part of the determination, the FDA established a 3-year compliance deadline to reformulate products and generally remove PHOs from the market. So the FDA has said, look, we're going to say these are not generally recognized as safe anymore, and companies have 3 years in order to comply and basically take it out of their products or submit what's called a food additive petition to allow the FDA to allow them to put trace amounts in products. Now, what my amendment does is just say, what the FDA did is says, we're going to set the not generally recognized as safe determination date as of now and allow a 3-year compliance to take it out of the products. And what you can imagine is any company, for instance, I have burger cookies, in Maryland. It's just an iconic cookie that uses a small amount of trans fat. But what it subjects them to now is someone coming to them and saying, you're putting something that's not generally recognized as safe. And their only defense is, well, the FDA gave me 3 years to take it out of the product, but that's not going to hold up in front of a jury. The jury's only going to hear the FDA said this is not generally recognized as safe. So what my amendment does is just to say, look, the FDA will set the not generally recognized as safe determination to be the same date as the final compliance date. So if you go ahead and comply over the next 3 years, take it out of your product, then if you don't, then on that date, you're using something that's not generally recognized as safe, and you should be subject to litigation for it if you're selling something that's unsafe. We have to keep in mind that 78% of PHOs are already taken out of the food stream. I mean, the public has demanded it. Most companies have drawn it down to very low levels. There are trace amounts in a lot of things like burger cookies, but it will take a couple of years to reformulate the products, and in that time, my amendment would just protect them from litigation based on the FDA having said that now it's not generally recognized as safe, as opposed to the end of the compliance period. And I would yield back.
Chairman Erholt.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I rise in support of this amendment. This is a common-sense approach that simply allows the industry the time necessary to phase out their ingredients, apply for the use of such ingredients in various situations, and have legal protection to do so. Like I said, it's a common-sense approach to this, and I'd urge my colleagues to support this amendment.
Mr. Farr.
Thank you, Mr. I have a question for the author on that implementation date. So you wouldn't get to that date now and then allow another 3 years?
No, no, and let me clarify that,
What you're
Mr.
just
Chairman.
trying to do is protect those companies that are phasing it out.
That's correct, during that 3-year period. So the FDA maintains its generally recognized as safe determination. Because remember, these have been around for 60 years. I mean, these products are not, look, when I was growing up, people said, look, eat margarine, not butter. Turns out that was a pretty bad recommendation because margarine is the partially hydrogenated oils. So what this says is until we remove the generally recognized as safe determination, we're going to maintain it through the compliance period. But at the end of the compliance period, which isn't changed by my amendment, it says that 3 years from now it's phased out, gone.
Would the department make it clear that in those 3 years it will be phased out?
Oh, absolutely. We don't comment on that part of the order.
Or should you include that in there, that this is going to be, I mean, I'm sympathetic. I'm not sympathetic to just delaying it.
Sure, and let me clarify, Mr. Chairman. There are two parts to the order. The first part is it removes the GRAS determination. The second part of the order is you have 3 years to comply to get it out of your product.
So it'll be
Mine
stated that.
only deals with the GRAS determination. Says instead of the FDA saying it's today, we're removing that determination on the date of the compliance, which just may, look, I'm confused. I had the FDA in. I'm not sure why they chose to go this way, because they could have done it the other way. I think this is the far more common sense way. Again, for the small producers, I mean, you know, Burger Cook is a family industry. I mean, they'll get sued. They'll just go out of business, because this will be a lawsuit that says, look, even though, yeah, you're in the compliance period, you're making a product that's not generally recognized as safe. Yield.
Further discussion? The question is on the Harris amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to. Ms. DeLauro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have an amendment at the desk, number 3.
Clerk will read.
I ask unanimous consent to dispense with the reading.
Without objection.
Mr. Chairman, I urge my colleagues to support this amendment, which would prohibit the administration from entering any agreement that invalidates U.S. catfish inspection laws. There is currently no equivalence requirement in our seafood standards, which means that importing countries do not have to meet United States domestic standards to be equivalent. A catfish inspection rule put forward by the Department of Agriculture at OMB would change.
Will the gentlelady yield?
Yes, I'd be
I
glad
would be willing to accept this amendment. The U.S. has a safety of food supply in the world, and I agree that with the gentlelady that our food safety inspection program should not be compromised, and so we'll be happy to accept the amendment.
Many thanks, Mr. Chairman.
The amendment is by the gentlelady, Ms. DeLauro. All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The amendment is agreed to. The women's soccer program is needing somebody right away. Are there other amendments? If not, I recognize Chairman Frelinghuysen for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to favorably report the Agricultural Appropriations Bill for fiscal year 2016 to the House.
You've heard the motion. Before we vote, let me remind you that we have another item on the agenda, the 302B, so do not leave. Question is on the motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. No. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. 3 days are granted to the minority for minority views. Our last item on the agenda is the consideration of revised 302B sub-allocations. These changes are largely technical in nature and ensure that we remain consistent with the 016 budget resolution top line. A table showing these changes has been passed out to you on your desk. The changes include a revision to reflect the additional $1.484 billion in program integrity funding that was the result of the labor HHS bill the committee reported last month. This also includes a reallocation of $14 million in budget authority from bills that have already passed the House to other subcommittees. Specifically, this includes $13 million for the Homeland Security Subcommittee, shifted from Commerce Justice and THUD, and $1 million to Financial Services to reflect updated CBO scoring of the bill. This report also includes corresponding outlay reallocations for these bills and moves $1.8 billion in outlays from the Defense Global War on Terror allocation to the State and Foreign Operations GWAT allocation in order to reflect changes in the House-passed defense bill. In order to continue with our appropriations work, I ask that the committee approve this report today.
Mr. Chairman.
Mrs. Lowy. Mrs. Lowy.
Mr. Chairman, the revisions are frankly not the issue. Our problem is with the underlying allocations and the sequester caps from which these allocations flow. We cannot let the occasion of revising the allocations go without reminding reminding ourselves that we face a very preventable crisis in the fall. The Senate cannot bring any appropriation bills to the floor under the caps, and the President reminds us once again that he will veto the Ag bill and every other appropriations bill until we settle on a reasonable way to replace the caps. Why are we not acting on the real problem? Until we engage and negotiate a way to replace the caps, the bills we are considering in committee are on a bridge to nowhere. I urge a no vote on these revisions, frankly, as a statement of our collective failure to address the real issue. Yield back.
Mr. Serrano.
Chairman, did you say for financial services an increase of 1 billion or 1 million?
I think you know the answer.
I can hope, can I?
Is there further discussion? If there's no further general discussion, are there amendments? If not, recognize Mr. Fielding.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the committee approve the revised report on the 302B allocations for the fiscal year 2016.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no.
No.
The ayes seem to have it. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. A recorded vote is requested. A sufficient number supporting. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Adderholt. Aye. Mr. Adderholt, aye. Mr. Amadei. Mr. Amadei, aye. Mr. Bishop. Mr. Bishop, no. Mr. Calvert. Mr. Calvert, aye. Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter, aye. Mr. Cole. Mr. Cole, aye. Mr. Crenshaw. Mr. Crenshaw, aye. Mr. Cuellar. Mr. Cuellar, no. Mr. Culberson. Mr. Loro. No. Mr. Loro, no. Mr. Dent. Mr. Dent, aye. Mr. Diaz-Balart. Mr. Diaz-Balart, aye. Mr. Farr. No. Mr. Farr, no. Mr. Fatah. Mr. Fleischman. Mr. Fleischman, aye. Mr. Fortenberry. Mr. Fortenberry, aye. Mr. Frelinghuysen. Mr. Frelinghuysen, aye. Ms. Granger. Ms. Granger, aye. Mr. Graves. Mr. Graves, aye. Dr. Harris. Dr. Harris, aye. Ms. Harrell Butler. Ms. Harrell Butler, aye. Mr. Honda. Mr. Honda, no. Mr. Israel. Mr. Israel, no. Mr. Jenkins. Mr. Jenkins, aye. Mr. Jolly. Mr. Jolly, aye. Mr. Joyce. Mr. Joyce, aye. Ms. Capter. Ms. Capter, no. Mr. Kilmer. Mr. Kilmer, no. Ms. Lee. Ms. Lee, no. Mrs. Lowy. No. Mrs. Lowy, no. Ms. McCullum. Ms. McCullum, no. Mr. Palazzo. Mr. Palazzo, aye. Ms. Pingree. No. Ms. Pingree, no. Mr. Price. Mr. Price, no. Mr. Quigley. Mr. Ridgel. Mr. Ridgel, aye. Mrs. Roby. Mrs. Roby, aye. Mr. Rogers.
Aye.
Mr. Rogers, aye. Mr. Rooney. Mr. Rooney, aye. Ms. Robo-Allard. Ms. Robo-Allard. Ms. Robo-Allard, no. Mr. Ruppersberger. Mr. Ruppersberger, no. Mr. Ryan. Mr. Ryan, no. Mr. Serrano. Mr. Serrano, no. Mr. Simpson. Mr. Simpson, aye. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stewart, aye. Mr. Valadeo. Mr. Valadeo, aye. Mr. Visclosky. No. Mr. Visclosky, no. Ms. Wasserman Schultz. Ms. Wasserman Schultz, no. Mr. Womack. Mr. Womack, aye. Mr. Yoder. Mr. Yoder, aye. Mr. Young. Mr. Young,
Members
aye.
who wish to be recorded, Mr.
Fatah, no.
Or change their vote? Clerk will. Mr. Quigley votes no.
Mr. Quigley, no.
Other members who wish to be recorded? Clerk will tally. While the clerk is tallying, a note on the clock on the wall, it's 1:30. And you finished 30 seconds early. On this vote, the yeas are 29, the nays are 21. The motion is agreed to. I ask unanimous consent that the staff be given the authority to make technical and conforming changes to the items approved today. Without objection, so ordered. If there's no further business, the committee stands adjourned.